It was May 8, 2020, for the third time, and Ryan had already caused 2 traffic accidents. He blamed the people of New Rome for this. The city's inhabitants drove like caffeinated lunatics with a death wish, their impatience rivaling monkeys wielding knives. The thought of moving on foot seemed safer, but less stylish. Fortunately, Ryan had saved just before passing the "Welcome to New Rome" sign at the end of the highway connecting the city to the rest of Campania. Driving his highly customized red Plymouth Fury, he deftly maneuvered past a tank truck, mere inches from disaster, and evaded a bliss-addicted meth head who leaped into the street. Finally, he reached New Rome's infamous strip. New Rome lived up to its reputation as Europe's sin capital, a phoenix rising from the ruins of Naples. Its gleaming skyscrapers were the tallest Ryan had seen since the Genome Wars, crowned by the imposing Dynamis Tower. The glass spire loomed like a corporate scepter, a testament to the city's motto: no gods, no kings, only money. On his left, the Mediterranean Sea sparkled under the sunset, its pristine waters a stark contrast to the chaotic cityscape. To his right, a gaudy array of casinos, luxury hotels, and the Colosseum Maximus, a modern replica of Rome's iconic structure, drew throngs of tourists. This part of the city truly earned its name, the Golden Coast. Ryan himself attracted attention as he cruised through in his quick-save outfit. His metal mask, with its round glass lenses, hid his face, while a black top hat crowned his head. A navy blue trench coat, purple shirt, and matching blue trousers completed the ensemble. The outfit screamed style over substance, and that suited Ryan just fine. Passing billboards, one caught his eye, the superheroine Wyvern flexing her impressive muscles in a white bodysuit, advertising Hercules Elixir. Want to be as strong as Wyvern, the ad boasted. With our Hercules Elixir, you'll conquer 12 labors in an afternoon. Only 100,000 euros at Dynamis. Everyone wants to be a genome these days, Ryan muttered, shaking his head. Superpowers in a can had become the rage, but he'd taken the genuine article, not a knockoff. Reaching the tourist district, a mishmash of bars, nightclubs, and overpriced eateries, Ryan parked near an unremarkable pub sandwiched between an Italian restaurant and a shuttered nightclub. The air reeked of drugs and alcohol, but the area felt more lively than seedy. Digging through his car's chaotic trunk, Ryan found the black briefcase he'd been hired to deliver. His tools, gadgets, and even a rabbit plushie spilled out, forming a chaotic metal heap. With his prize in hand, he stepped into the pub. The place was cozy but sparsely populated. A young man levitated a coin to impress his date, showcasing the weak effects of a cheap elixir. The barman, an older Italian man with a bald head and wrinkled face, eyed Ryan suspiciously. "Hello, local humans," Ryan greeted with mock cheer.
"I come in peace."
"Is this Renesco's Jolie Wrangler?" The name's on the door, the barman grumbled.
"What do you want?"
"You must be Renesco," Ryan said, handing over the briefcase.
"This is for you."
Full of mushrooms and a bomb, but I didn't open it this time. Renesco frowned, narrowing his eyes.
"This time?"
"I'm quick save," Ryan introduced himself, tipping his hat. "Immortal, but keep it on the down low." Before more questions could be asked, the door opened, and the room chilled as a skeletal figure entered. The man's skeletal visage, clad in a hoodie, radiated icy mist, his frozen breath turning into deadly weapons. The assassin wasted no time, skewering Renesco with an ice spear. Ryan barely had time to react before another icicle tore through his chest, piercing his bulletproof jacket. As the room erupted in screams and chaos, Ryan collapsed, locking eyes with the assailant. "Adam sends his regards," the skeletal genome rasped. "I'll get you," Ryan coughed, blood dribbling from his lips, "on my next save." The assassin froze him solid, ending the loop. It was May 8, 2020, for the 4th time, and Ryan was pissed. 3 deaths in 2 hours.
Unacceptable.
Determined, Ryan retraced his steps with mechanical precision. This time, as he reached the pub, he parked his car outside and waited. The assassin soon appeared, walking nonchalantly toward the entrance.
Ryan smirked.
"Let's see how you like this, Frosty." He floored the accelerator, driving his reinforced Plymouth Fury through the pub's front wall and slamming the genome against the counter. The impact scattered tables but left the patrons unharmed. Stepping out, Ryan waved to the shocked crowd.
"I'm quick save. Immortal, remember."
Ignoring the barman's protests, Ryan retrieved a baseball bat from his trunk and approached the dazed assassin. The genome tried to summon his ice armor but was too stunned to react. "Who are you?" the assassin rasped. "Just a courier," Ryan said, swinging the bat. Time slowed as he dodged an ice shard, then resumed as he slammed the weapon into the killer's face. Blow after blow rained down, the assassin's icy exterior shattering under the onslaught. By the time corporate security arrived, the skeletal genome was barely conscious. "Do you have a license?" one guard asked Ryan.
Nope, he replied.
Then why shouldn't we arrest you? Ryan tossed a wad of cash at them. For repairs, he added, throwing another.
And for your honor.
The guards exchanged looks before pocketing the bribes. They dragged the assassin away, leaving Ryan to deliver the briefcase. Renesco, still in shock, stared at him. Why go through all this trouble? You've spent more than you'll earn. Ryan grinned, tipping his hat.
Because I'm bored.
He drove off into the sunset, ready for his next side quest. Ryan always did science in his underwear. Clothes embodied society's restrictions on the human spirit, the crushing weight of civilization forcing individuals into molds. By remaining mostly naked, Ryan embraced his creativity, unshackled from conformity. His boxers symbolized his tenuous grip on mental stability, a barrier against completely losing himself. The one time he worked entirely naked, he built a rabbit plushie. Also, the boxers were comfortable and warm. Len had made them for him years ago. Having rented a hotel room near the city center, Ryan spent the early morning alternating between researching new Rome and upgrading his gadgets. The receptionist had given him a strange look as he hauled an arsenal of weapons upstairs but wisely refrained from calling private security. Masked individuals were nothing unusual in this city. Of course, Ryan hacked the bedroom's camera, both to protect his secret identity and to prevent unnecessary panic. He had many dangerous items in his possession. Seated on a chair, Ryan typed on his laptop with his toes, a skill he'd mastered over countless loops, while his hands worked on a coil gun. The client had wired payment for yesterday's delivery, praising him for Ghoul's arrest, though Ryan barely cared. The job had been an excuse to explore Italy in search of new adventures. Though his travels paused when he learned Len might be in New Rome. According to Renesco, Rust Town was the place to investigate. The district's name, Rust Town, referred to New Rome's impoverished northwest. Corporations had dumped industrial plants there, transforming the area into a wasteland. To segregate it further, they'd built walls to keep vagrants out of wealthier districts. The junkyard, an infamous landmark in Rust Town, was a former coal mine turned landfill and market. Rogue geniuses and adventurers frequented it, trading exotic items. Len might be among them. Someone knocked on his bedroom window. Ryan turned to see a woman waving from the other side.
Hi, she said.
Can we talk for a minute? His room was on the 10th floor, with no fire escape.
Hey.
Ryan quickly donned his mask and hat. You're violating my secret identity. You don't have one, Ryan Romano, she replied, raising an eyebrow. And your file says you've never tried to hide it. I have a file?
Ryan beamed. I'm famous.
What does it say? Deranged but reliable.
Sweet.
They got him halfway right. The woman looked him over through the glass. Aren't you going to put on more clothes?
Ryan grinned. No.
He would always stand against oppressors. The uninvited guest frowned and knocked on the window again, more firmly.
Can you?
Ryan opened the window with one hand, keeping his coil gun trained on her with the other. Now that he had a closer look, Ryan recognized her from yesterday's billboards. She hovered in midair thanks to translucent dragonfly wings buzzing silently behind her back, hands on her hips. Her poise gave her an ethereal, fairy-like grace. I'm Wyvern, the visitor introduced herself. She wore a sleeveless, skin-tight white uniform adorned with a Dynamis logo on the left and a silver star encircled by gold laurels on the right. Likely in her late 20s or early 30s, she was striking. I wanted to thank you for taking down Ghoul yesterday.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ryan began closing the window.
Wait.
Wyvern caught it effortlessly. Rumor had it she could bench press a school bus, even partially transformed, so Ryan didn't push. What are you doing in town, Quicksave? Can I call you Quicksave?
Sure. Ryan shrugged. I'm a courier.
I deliver mail, no matter how many people want me dead. So the Augusti didn't hire you as muscle? Wyvern asked, amused. The place you defended was one of their fronts. I figured they hired you to defend it from the metagang. Nah, I beat up that geriatric disaster because he was in the way of my side quest. Wyvern looked puzzled at his jargon. The genome wars had obliterated the gaming industry, leaving Ryan feeling like a relic. By the way, have you heard of a girl my age named Len? Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist.
Marxist-Leninist.
Wyvern's frown deepened. You mean communists? Those guys still exist. Yeah, I know it's a dirty word in this capitalist utopia, but yes. Never heard of her, the superheroine said, shaking her head. But I can check our files. Is she why you're here?
Oh yes.
She's beautiful and kind and my best friend.
Ryan gushed.
I've been searching forever. I'll help if I can, Wyvern promised with a smile. Actually, I think I can help you a lot. Here it comes, the recruitment pitch. I'm part of a group called Il Miglior, Wyvern began. You've probably heard of us.
Il Miglior.
Corporate superheroes protecting New Rome while moonlighting as celebrities. They were Dynami's pawns, their images owned and monetized. Nothing like Leo Hargrave's Carnival, true pro bono heroes. We're always scouting for talent, Wyvern continued. While you have a reputation for collateral damage, your powers are incredibly useful, and you haven't committed crimes or allied with wanted criminals. Stopping Ghoul proved your heart's in the right place. So you want me to audition for a movie?
Ryan quipped.
I've only tried theater once, and it wasn't funny. Wyvern laughed. I wish we did fewer commercials, she admitted, a hint of bitterness in her voice. But we protect citizens. Visit our HQ, see if you fit. After that stunt with Ghoul, you'll need backup. I can handle myself, Ryan replied, a bit insulted. Look, quick save, the Meta aren't like the Augusti, she insisted.
They're psychos.
You've hurt one of theirs.
Their leader, Adam, eats people.
Then he must have a lot on his plate. Wyvern's smile strained.
All right, Ryan said.
I'll think about it if I get sidetracked on my main quest. The superheroine frowned slightly, listening to something via an earplug. Ryan noticed it now but heard nothing. Understood, Wyvern said, handing Ryan a business card. If you change your mind, come to this address.
Sure. Take care.
With that, Wyvern flew off, her wings propelling her to near supersonic speed in seconds. Ryan closed the window, returning to his gadgets, but soon received a voice call on his computer. The caller's voice was encrypted. Quick save deliveries, Ryan answered lazily. What can I do for you? What did she tell you? Asked the mysterious voice. Wait, am I being spied on?
Ryan asked.
Few places are off the grid in New Rome. Note to self, find a discreet hotel next loop. Who are you, creepy mystery voice? My name is Vulcan, the caller said. I represent the Augusti. We run New Rome and most of Italy. I thought Dynamis did?
Ryan quipped.
That's what they want you to think, Vulcan chuckled. But Italy only has one emperor, Augustus.
Fair point, Ryan said.
Thanks for handling Ghoul, Vulcan said. But whatever the winged lizard promised, we can offer more. Is this an offer I can't refuse or? We need people who get things done, Vulcan said. Women, hardware, bliss, whatever you need. Prove you're a team player. An email pinged with an address, the Bakuto Casino.
Come tonight, alone. Don't make us wait. We never ask twice.
Ryan ended the call, considering his options. Both offers might help him find Len.
He had a save point.
That meant one thing. Multiple routes unlocked.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
As per the name, the Bakuto was a Japan-themed casino. Having parked his car nearby, Ryan glanced up at the building with amazement. The architects had recreated a perfect copy of an Oriental pagoda tower, as large as a mall. A red carpet led to golden ostentatious torii gates with the casino's title plastered on them. Hordes of gamblers walked inside, some dressed in traditional Asian clothes like qipao, others in tuxedos and expensive gowns. Of course, none were as stylish as Quicksave's own fabulous outfit, but the genome gave them points for trying. The staff had even dressed the bouncers as samurai in low-grade, genius-made armor. They looked almost like feudal armor, but heavier and bound by flexible circuits instead of clothing fabric. Very nice design, especially the stained glass visor. Ryan wondered if they had lightsabers to go along with it. No weapons allowed inside, one bouncer said, as he and a compatriot checked Ryan out. Due to their armor, both were at least one head taller than the genome. They immediately found the throwing knives hidden in his sleeves, and then examined him very thoroughly. It took them a few minutes to find most of his stuff. 25 throwing knives, 2 revolvers, including 1 Desert Eagle, 1 energy pistol, 1 frag grenade, a switchblade, a hand buzzer, and the bouncer frowned, seizing a tiny metal sphere the size of a baseball.
Is that a bomb?
Yep, Ryan answered.
Genius tech. EMP? Gunpowder.
Thermonuclear. The bouncer chuckled heartily until he realized Ryan was serious. He then exchanged a glance with his fellow guards. All of them put their hands on a saber around their belts. You keep an A-bomb in your back pocket? The guard wagged the device at Ryan's face. It's only for dissuasion, the courier promised while crossing his fingers.
I Korea swear.
The bouncer remained silent a moment, then touched his helmet and hushed words which Ryan couldn't hear. No doubt he was contacting his manager. You can get your stuff back after you're done, the bouncer declared, putting his weapons in a bag. But one wrong move and that bomb will find its way in another A place.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Ryan replied as he waltzed into the casino like a child. He immediately found himself walking through a corridor of pachinkos, those strange Japanese slot machines. Gamblers toiled on them, enslaved by their otherworldly power. The sight reminded Ryan of the 4 loops he spent addicted to these machines, before getting bored.
Ah, the nostalgia.
A few steps later, Ryan entered the main gambling hall, mixing both Japanese art design and Western gambling entertainment. Roulette wheels stood side by side with blackjack tables, and they even had an arena for sumo wrestling next to a sushi bar. An elevator at the center led to the higher floors, each probably catering to different tastes. A giant screen above the sushi bar showed a promotional image of New Rome's Colosseum, and a T-Rex roaring on its grounds, under the acclaim of the crowd. A voice-over hyped up the competition. This mutant dinosaur has been cloned from ancient times and improved to fight at Colosseum Maximus.
Maximus.
And if dinosaurs won't do it, our robots will. The screen changed from the picture of a Jurassic Park ad to a humanoid mecha straight out of an old Japanese cartoon. Coming straight out of our weapon development program, Dynamis introduces you to the Mega Fighter Mark III. Meant to fight the deadliest psychos and marauders, this killing machine will keep you on your toes. Will any contestant get the better of these bloodthirsty monsters? You will see it in tonight's episode of Colosseum.
Maximus.
Only at Dynamis. Ryan noticed a smaller screen showing the odds, people betting either which contestants would survive, or if the T-Rex would eat them all on the first round. For some obscure reason, most bet on an overwhelming dinosaur victory. Ryan wandered towards the roulette near the sushi bar and immediately started placing bets, throwing stacks of euro bills on the table. Quick save, a man asked Ryan, the clinking of his outfit announcing his presence long before he called out to the courier. This guy also wore samurai armor, but one blue and far sleeker, almost skin-tight. Instead of a faceless glass visor, his helmet took the shape of a black demon mask, allowing Ryan to see the black eyes and mouth below. The bouncers nodded at him in respect, and quite a few people gave the man a wide berth.
Yeah, clearly a genome.
Yes. Ryan asked, feigning innocence. You don't have precognition, right, I hope? The man asked, crossing his arms. Because I will have to kick you out if you do. We don't allow blue genomes to play. Precognition. The courier shook his head.
Nea, of course not.
I'm as violet as they come. Genomes were classified depending on the color of the elixir which gave them their power. Blue focused on information manipulation, from precognition to infohazards, while violet had space-time related abilities. Then you can't peer into alternate timelines or cheat like that? Samurai guy asked. Or rewind time and send information to your past self? But if I can rewind time and erase this conversation so it never happened, do you even exist right now? Or are you a mere simulation of my feverish mind? Samurai guy simply decided to watch, trying to make sense of the terrible existential conundrum Quicksave just threw at his face. In the end, the courier blew $30,000, but he had memorized the roulette numbers and the victorious gladiators' names for a later loop. Strangely, while the dinosaur won, one firecracker had managed to survive all the way to the end. Alright, you definitely aren't a seer, Samurai guy said, having acted as Ryan's chaperone during his entire gambling spree. I think you should slow down though. At this point, you're pretty much burning money. I'm sorry, what's your name? Ryan ended up asking his mysterious samurai overseer.
I'm Zonbato.
I'm an Augusti.
Are you Japanese?
Because you don't sound Japanese. No, he replied, a bit confused by the question.
I'm Italian.
Your supervillain name is Zonbato, but you're not Japanese? Goddamn counterfeit. I'm not a supervillain, the man protested, clearly missing the point. My girlfriend is Korean though. You have a girlfriend?
Ryan gasped. That's wonderful.
Thanks, the man replied with a smile. I hope to marry her soon. I'm curious, why did you come to us? I heard Wyvern made you an offer too. You guys won the coin toss, Ryan replied bluntly. Zonbato chuckled, rather amused. He quickly invaded Quicksave's personal space by putting a hand on his shoulder. I'm buying you a drink. The samurai wannabe invited Ryan to the sushi bar, taking a beer while Ryan ordered tea. Bouncers formed a security perimeter around them, to allow them some privacy. Ghoul escaped, Zonbato told Quicksave. A mole in the private security told us his pals bust him out, probably with inside help. And knowing that maniac, he will be on your trail shortly. I thought you should know. Ryan gasped, promising to inform Wyvern that Ghoul's friends would bust him out on his next save. Are you telling me that private security is corrupt? I would never have known. The grunts are underpaid, so some are open to negotiation. Their elite squads, especially those working for Dynami's executives, not so much. Zonbato sipped his beer. We know you have a pretty powerful ability, but you did good in approaching us. Safety in numbers, I always say.
You know I'm immortal? Ryan asked. But I didn't tell anyone. You're immortal?
Zonbato raised an eyebrow.
You can't die.
I think I can, but I never succeeded. Zonbato paused, unsure how to answer. Well, we know you can stop time for an unknown duration as your main power, the man said. Now what do you know about us? That you are the biggest supervillain organization in Italy, and that your boss is invincible.
We are not, Zonbato sighed.
We are a family and profit-minded society, men and women of honor.
Not supervillains.
That's what Il Miglior labels us as because we aren't corporate sellouts, and we build houses, churches and hospitals for the poor. We are good for the community.
Your drugs are good for the heart too, Ryan deadpanned. But your weapons are better.
It's not illegal, Zonbato replied, which was true since there wasn't a true government nowadays.
We have to fund ourselves.
I'm telling you, where we rule, things are peaceful, people feel safe. There's no pillager taking your stuff, no psychos running around. When Augustus takes over Italy, and he will, you won't recognize our country.
It will be like before the wars.
The man sounded like he really believed it too. He seemed a bit young to rant about the good old days though. Oh, also, do you have anything child-related?
Ryan asked.
Because I'm pretty flexible, but if I find you do anything reprehensible to teens and below, then we're going to have a problem. Zonbato's mouth twisted into an expression of absolute disgust. We don't even sell bliss to minors, he said. We aren't savages.
Not like the meta.
Anyway, do you know how we work as an organization? Because if you want to join us, you will have to bend to the hierarchy. I'm more of a free spirit kind of guy, Ryan said. I'm just looking for help in finding a friend.
Oh, this seemed to surprise the genome.
He must have thought Ryan a money-only kind of guy.
Her name is Len.
Black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist.
Do you have a photo?
Ryan shook his head. Is she your girlfriend?
No, just my best friend.
Been looking for her for years, until a client tried to pay me in tech she made. He said it came from New Rome.
Tech.
She's a genius. Zonbato finished his beer, mulling over that information. Okay, look, if she's what matters to you, then we'll help you find her. Favor for a favor. Ryan could live with that. Once he had the information, he could always start a new loop and go to Len directly, without having to put a horse's head in someone's bed.
What favor? We need muscle, Zonbato said.
New Rome has a new problem called the Metagang. They're all psychos.
I know them, Ryan replied.
Had a skirmish with them years ago, back when they were small fries. Ghoul hadn't joined then, but they were already vicious assholes. Not that Ryan could blame them. The human body wasn't made to handle more than one elixir, even knockoffs. The combination of two powers made the genetic code unstable, usually driving the recipient mad. Sure, they gained an additional ability. Nobody ever developed more than two as far as Ryan knew, but needed periodical injections of elixirs to stabilize their body. These genome mutants had the well-deserved nickname of psychos. You would think people knew better. But the thought of exceptional cases like Augustus, who gained two obscene powers with no ill effects, always drove fools to try their luck. Long short story, these junkies started moving into our turf recently, especially the north neighborhoods, Zonbato explained, as shouts erupted behind them. Ryan glanced behind him, noticing a new Colosseum battle had begun on TV. They attacked our guys, we hit them back, and now they assault our associates and suppliers like Renesco. Can't you? Ryan mimicked a beheading motion.
You know.
Yes we can, but for now they're just an annoying nuisance and the bosses want our best men to focus on more important matters. Zonbato asked for another beer. So what do you say? Help us beat up some mutants, get your girl?
Oh, business.
Ryan joined his hands.
How many? How many what? How many casualties?
It was May 10, 2020 for the first time, and Ryan hadn't blown up something yet. Frankly, this surprised him. 72 hours were almost a hard cap for him for non-destructive behavior. He didn't always cause it, he just had a knack for getting into exciting situations. Ryan wasn't drawn to adventure. Adventure was drawn to him, and he couldn't wait for a new adrenaline rush. Driving at night up north, the courier and his Plymouth left the wealthy districts for more industrial ones. Hotels and casinos slowly vanished, replaced with railroad stations, gray buildings, taxi centrals, and other businesses. According to the map, they should reach the old harbor in no time. Existence is subjective.
MMM?
Ryan asked, turning his head to the passenger to his right. He had to lower himself in the car, to avoid reaching the roof with his head. Your question, about whether I exist if you can roll back time, Zonbato continued. The man had put crates full of chemicals at the car's back, then insisted on chaperoning quick save during his first job for the family. Both were supposed to protect a shipment from attack and beat up the meta if they dared to interrupt it. We can never know we exist, so there is no objective truth to existence. You're still thinking it over? Ryan asked, a bit surprised. He said so much nonsense in such a short time that people usually forgot what he said halfway through. Yes. It's disturbing. You get used to the uncertainty. Better not tell him the truth. The sound of cars gave way to that of waves crashing on the shore, and the faint rustle of the evening wind. The city's old harbor seemed rather derelict, rusting buildings standing next to abandoned waterfront warehouses. The remains of a massive supertanker overlooked the sea, having crashed against a stony beach. The captain must have been drunk when it happened. If humans lived in the area, Ryan didn't notice any. They had entered the poor zone. The quality of the air also drastically declined, to the point that Ryan felt like he was kissing a professional smoker. The stink even overwhelmed the smell of the sea. He blamed it on the proximity of a nuclear power plant, industrial facilities, and the famous rust town further north.
Somebody call Greenpeace, Ryan complained. They can't all be dead.
Dynamis uses knockoff genomes to keep the pollution in Rust Town, Zonbato replied as they drove towards the stony beach. But they don't do much to protect this area. Is this what remains of Naples' old port? Ryan asked, curious. He had always been interested in pre-war facilities, especially since most cities had been transformed into nice, aesthetic craters. Yeah. Dynamis is building new docks in the south for freighters. Zonbato pointed at a spot at the waterfront. We can stop there. Ryan parked the car between two warehouses, then stepped down alongside his chaperone. A group waited for them near the remains of a pier, next to a huge pile of crates and a minivan. The leader, and the youngest, was an African-Italian barely above 18, yet taller than Ryan himself. Physically fit, he kept his hair short and dressed fashionably. He had invested his drug money on a stylized sweater, boots, and refined pants. He really gave off a cultured middle-class vibe, even if he was busy smoking a joint as the duo showed up. The rest, well, they were grunts with submachine guns, nothing special. Cannon fodder with a short life expectancy, and even shorter opportunities for career advancement, whom Ryan could identify on sight nowadays. The courier nicknamed them Grunt 1, Grunt 2, and Grunty. Finally, the leader complained upon seeing the two genomes arrive. What took you so long? You were supposed to arrive first. We're in the open. Sorry Luigi, Zonbato replied, much calmer. Traffic delayed us.
Hey Luigi.
Ryan said with his best accent ever.
It's say me Mario.
Luigi frowned, trying to make the connection, and failing. I don't get it. I think it's video game stuff, Grunty said, the other mooks shrugging their shoulders.
Ryan sighed.
It's exhausting, he complained, to be an island of culture amidst a sea of ignorance. Luigi, this is Quicksave, the new muscle I told you about. Zonbato made the introductions. Quicksave, this is Luigi, alias Crypto. He's our supply guy. You have a superpower too? Ryan asked, faking astonishment. Could the only guy without a weapon be special? Yeah, I have a bullshit filter, Luigi replied, tossing his joint into the sea to share with the fish. Who's your favorite genome? Well, I don't. A foreign force took over Ryan's mind, twisting his tongue. Mr. Wave is so cool. Seriously? Luigi asked, a little peeved. You like that cringy weirdo?
Ryan couldn't stop himself.
Also, I'm pretty hetero, but if Leo Hargrave sneaked into my room at night, I would still let him. Okay, stop, I don't want the details, Luigi said, the effect lifted from Ryan's mind. See? Once you start talking, you can't lie to me. One day, Ryan warned, wagging a finger at Luigi, you're going to ask me the wrong question, and you won't like the answer. As in, he would have to reload and start over. Bragging about his time stop was one thing, but Ryan always kept quiet about his save point. Someday, someone smart might figure out a way around his ace in the hole, so Ryan always kept it hidden up his sleeve. Why did you bring this guy instead of Sphere? Luigi complained to Zonbato. Or Chitter. They're busy elsewhere, the samurai replied. And you have 5 bodyguards. Bullets aren't going to stop any of the meta, his fellow crook replied, turning to the grunts.
No offense guys.
Zonbato cleared his throat. We can always argue about security after the job. The submarines should arrive soon, Luigi replied. I paid off the private security to look the other way, so no problem on that front. What about Il Miglior? Ryan asked, curious. Can you even buy superheroes?
Luigi chuckled.
Those overmarketed clowns? Don't worry, they make a show of hitting our operations from time to time, but they're too scared of us to try anything truly disruptive. They usually go after independents, not professionals. They let us do our business, we let them do theirs, Zonbato explained, removing the crates from Ryan's car.
It's like the Cold War.
But we're close to Rust Town and the meta already hit delivery runs like this one, so prepare yourself. Then time to fist, Ryan said, opening the trunk of his car to get his pisto gauntlets. Pisto gauntlets were metallic gloves, first developed by the infamous genius Mekran to equip close combat drones. Quicksave's own weapons looked like gauntlets with a hydraulic piston-powered ram built upon them. The mechanism pushed the ram forward, knocking back the enemy upon smashing. The courier even improved upon the original design by adding an electrical shock effect to the mix, for double the pain. They are pisto gauntlets, but they aren't any pisto gauntlets, Ryan boasted at Luigi, as he put his gloves on and showed them off. I call them the Fisty Brothers because they fist people to oblivion. Everyone is afraid of nuclear bombs, but these?
These are the real A-bombs.
Only Grunt 2 laughed, proving that he alone had a future. Luigi looked at Ryan's gauntlets, then at Zonbato. Zon, I don't know on which planet your guy lives, but it's clearly not ours. They say madness is a pit, Ryan replied cheerfully, hands on his waist.
They're wrong.
Madness is a roller coaster. I kinda like him, Zonbato told Luigi, as the other grunts helped add their crates to the existing pile.
He's funny.
You like weird people, period. Luigi shrugged, raising his sweater's sleeve to reveal a watch.
Anytime now.
The waters near the pier grew agitated, the trio looking over the edge. 3 strange, spherical bathyspheres emerged from the waves, each large enough to house many within their confines. The machines lacked any form of cables, unlike old bathysphere models, and instead seemed powered by small propellers. Their reinforced glass door opened, but Ryan couldn't see any controls or buttons inside. Ryan gasped, instantly recognizing the design.
That's Len stuff. Hey!
Luigi shouted as the courier summarily pushed him out of the way to observe the machines better. It barely took a few glances for Ryan to confirm his hypothesis. He could recognize her work among thousands, the fondness for an outdated steampunk technology made viable again, the ruggedness of the design, with beauty sacrificed on the altar of barbaric efficiency, the crimson paint, her favorite, dulled by the sea. The sight of the bathysphere awakened old emotions in Ryan, long buried beneath the apathy and boredom. Nostalgia, joy, longing, and even hope. Finally, after years of fruitless search, Ryan was finally on the right track. His days of solitude would soon be over. He knew this mission would further his main quest. Len, Ryan struggled to avoid having a flashback, turning to Zonbato and pleading like a child. Where did you find it?
Please, please, please. I dunno, Zonbato replied.
Vulcan's division takes care of the tech, not ours. We just transport and manage the supplies. I'm not even sure we even own these machines, Luigi said, dusting his clothes and bringing out a phone. He started typing as the grunts threw the crates in the bathyspheres, perhaps sending a signal to someone else. Just help us put the supplies inside and I'll look into it afterward. It's getting cold, and it ain't safe here.
Speaking of cold.
Now that Ryan thought of it, it seemed to be getting chillier by the second.
Unnaturally so.
Zonbato noticed it too, and immediately braced himself for an attack. A swirling sword of solid crimson light appeared in his hands, the perfect replica of a katana. They're here, he said, the grunts immediately raising their machine guns. Ryan looked around and quickly noticed them coming from the north. A distant figure froze the sea, creating a bridge of ice on which he skated. Ryan immediately recognized Ghoul, although instead of a hoodie, the geriatric disaster had covered his body in sheets of ice, forming a multi-layered armor. His body released a cloud of white mist, making it difficult to clearly distinguish his features. Another figure flew behind Ghoul, although floating might have been a better term. The second genome wore a black hazmat suit and gas mask, giving them a spooky vibe. Their gauntlets unleashed streams of compressed air, allowing them to propel themselves on the sea. In short, a living Chernobyl holiday ad. Ghoul and Sarin, Zonbato recognized the two.
Maybe more.
I'll take care of them, Ryan said, eager to continue his main quest without interruptions. You can continue with the menial manual labor minions. You want to take them on alone?
Zonbato asked, a bit concerned. You're sure?
They're killers.
He cared.
Ryan raised a thumb up and walked up north towards the stony beach and the supertanker. He almost slipped on the oiled stones, caught himself, and then glanced at the sea. The two psychos clearly aimed for the pier and the bathyspheres, perhaps having been forewarned. Then Ghoul noticed Ryan, who mimicked a home run with an invisible bat. Like how a bull challenged a matador, the psycho instantly veered off course, much to his companion's surprise. He charged at Ryan with murder on his mind.
You mother Beeliper.
Ghoul screamed over the sea, the stone beach mimicking the Arctic as he came closer. A dozen ice shards formed from the moisture around the psycho, while he said so many insults that Ryan's mind automatically censored him. You bleep, I'm going to bleep your skull and bleep 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 with my bleep. That wasn't child-friendly. That wasn't child-friendly at all. You grew back your teeth?
Ryan noticed.
You must have drunk a lot of milk. Ghoul responded by leaping on the beach, unleashing a dozen ice daggers at Ryan at the same time. Apparently, he no longer played baseball but throwing knives. The courier accepted the challenge. Ryan stopped time, brought out the knives hidden under his trench coat, aimed, and threw them. When time resumed, Ghoul's projectiles were deflected by Ryan's own. Most ice shards hit a warehouse behind, missing their targets, while a throwing knife found its way to the psycho's unprotected eye.
Nailed it.
It took him so many restarts to master knife throwing, but it had been worth it. I'll peel your skin, like an orange, Ghoul hissed in pain as he removed the knife, his screams music to Ryan's ears. The eye's blood turned to strawberry-colored ice cream when it came out of the socket, making the courier hungry. Then I'll drink your blood, and the sweet elixir it carries. The other psycho chose that moment to land on the beach, hitting the ice floor with a loud thump and somehow avoiding slipping up. Ghoul's white mist slowly widened the ice layer over the beach, which now spread to the sea and the walkway. Ryan suddenly wondered if he should add a scarf to his outfit.
Ghoul, what the hell?
While her voice was somewhat muffled by the mask, Miss Nuclear Disaster was clearly a girl.
You heard Adam. The shipment first. That's him.
Ghoul snarled, creating blades of ice over his forearms and pointing them at Ryan. That's the bastard who beat me up. I told you he was an Augusti.
Slander?
That was the thanks Ryan got for trying to alleviate that old fossil's suffering? And they said euthanasia was progressive. I guess Adam can't be mad at us for dusting one of them then, Saren said, raising her gauntlets at Ryan as if he should be intimidated. She mustn't have washed her hands. If you knew what's good for you, you should have stayed the fuck out of Rusttown, but I guess you pussies are pretty slow to learn. Don't worry, the courier replied.
Whatever happens, Blower.
Blower. The hazmat girl interrupted him, confused.
That's not my nah.
Your name is Blower now because you blow air. Ryan then pointed a finger at one eye, menacingly. And now his name is Picard because I liked French frozen food. In retrospect, calling a girl Blower might have sounded a little dirty, because she became really upset. Her gauntlets began to vibrate, unleashing a blast of compressed air at quick save. The ice below them began to crack from the shockwave, and Ryan realized he should have nicknamed her the Vibrator instead. Stopping time for a few seconds, Ryan lazily waltzed out of the blast's way, almost slipped on the ice, caught himself, cursed, and then let time resume. The compressed air blew up the walkway behind the beach, grinding stones to dust and redecorating the pavement in a straight line for at least 10 meters. Trying to make it a threesome, Ghoul skated after quick save speed rivaling that of a car, blades raised. Not swinging this way, Ryan dodged the attack by lowering his head. His time stop could last for up to 10 seconds, and you could do a lot in 10 seconds, but suffered from a cooldown duration afterward. It was equal to the amount of time Ryan spent freezing time. Use the time stop for 5 seconds, can't do it again 5 seconds afterward. Not understanding the concept of personal space, Ghoul kept trying to nail Ryan with his blade and received a punch in the stomach for his trouble. Fisty activated on contact, the ram smashing through the psycho's ice armor and sending him flying backward to take a bath in the sea. The water froze right after he entered it. Unfortunately, the contact with Ghoul's white mist froze Fisty, jamming the pistons. God damn it, it always had performance issues when things heated up. Not caring about her teammate, Saren kept focusing on attacking Ryan, who chuckled at his own mental joke. The courier had to run away from the beach and on the walkway, as a shockwave collapsed the ice, even briefly stopping time to make it. You blow air very fast? That's your power. Ryan struggled not to laugh, but almost slipped on the frozen pavement, ruining the moment. Why didn't he dedicate a loop to learn ice skating again? My fan can do the same, and it cost me $15. Seeing Ryan escape and still pining for his undivided attention, Saren pointed her hands at her feet and unleashed a new shockwave. A column of compressed air propelled her upward, allowing her to leap over the harbor. Ryan looked up and got a perfect view of her back, but much to his disappointment, she seemed to float inside her suit.
Very strange. Why the obsession, Blower?
Ryan asked, trying to unjam Fisty so he could introduce her to that crazy girl's face.
Nothing dirty.
Have you fallen for me at first sight? Unfortunately for you, Saren replied, vibrating her gauntlets from above to rain short blasts at the walkway. I'm a necrophiliac.
Oh, a fellow quipper.
Ryan was so happy to have some back-and-forth interactions, even if he needed to focus on avoiding the blasts. So many people just tried to kill him without exchanging pleasantries, it was just rude. Stopping time again, Ryan ran away and managed to reach the part of the walkway which hadn't frozen over. Running on ice was a lot harder to do than it sounded, and more importantly, made him look like a klutz. When time resumed, Saren's volley had turned the frozen pavement into a cheese. On the horizon, the courier noticed Zonbato and Luigi finishing the supply run, seeing that he could handle the situation well. "I'm sure we'll break the ice between us." "That's just pitiful," Saren replied upon landing on the roof of a waterfront warehouse. The height gave her a better view of the walkway, and solid ground allowed her to focus entirely on Ryan. This time, having resolved her own performance issues, she switched from short bursts to sustained fire. "Did my invitation leave you stone cold?" Quicksave shouted innocently to Miss Chernobyl, running away while managing to unjam Fisty. The sustained blast collapsed the walkway behind him, stones falling on the beach. Frankly, it surprised Ryan that they hadn't woken up the whole neighborhood. "Don't you ever shut up?" Ghoul's voice snarled, as the drenched Psycho leaped on the walkway for a second round. Even with his armor of ice on, he left salt water behind with every step, and, was that a starfish stuck to his leg? "Anyway, as I said before you interrupted me, whatever happens." Ryan turned to face his foes and extended his arms, doing his best to look fabulous. "I won't take you seriously."
Bugs Bunny.
The rabbit was Ryan's most beloved character in all of fiction, and he had watched all its cartoons during his endless wandering. The courier always laughed at Hunter's failure to catch the wily animal, their rage growing with each missed bullet. So it must have been very frustrating for these two.
"Stop it."
By now, Ghoul fumed so much that it became difficult to see through the white mist surrounding him. The whole harbor was slowly freezing, while the Psycho threw car-sized blocks of ice at Ryan. "Stop dodging." Ryan lazily stopped time, moved out of a projectile's path, then cancelled his power. The Psycho was actually getting worse with his aiming the more angered he grew. Unfortunately, the white mist surrounding Mr. Dembones also made it impossible for Ryan to get in close without freezing in place. He knew he should have invested in a thicker sweater.
"Ghoul, he's a speedster."
Saren snarled, still standing on a roof to keep the high ground. She was no more successful than her ally at hitting Ryan, who mocked her by activating his time stop just when her blasts were within an inch of reaching him. At one point, the courier even took the time to blow her a kiss. "Just freeze him already." "I'm not a speedster, I'm Quicksave," Ryan shouted, before revealing his greatest secret.
"I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone."
"Soon you're just going to be blood on the pavement."
"What pavement?"
By now the two Psychos had destroyed the entire waterfront, turning it into an icy wasteland of snow and craters. Ryan had to keep moving north to find ground to stand on, eventually luring the duo to an empty parking lot. While Ghoul pursued him on foot, his female companion glided on top of a streetlight, somehow managing to avoid slipping up. There was something wrong with the way she moved, as if she had no weight at all. All Psychos were mutants, so she must have an abnormal physiology beneath the hazmat suit. "I'm sorry, but you make ice cream and blow off air," Ryan pointed out. "Household products can do it. While I control the linchpin of all reality." I try not to sound patronizing, but Ghoul unleashed a wide burst of white mist with a furious growl, freezing everything in its path. Ryan simply activated his time stop and dodged once again. Still growing bored with the pursuit and now having an opening, he grabbed two of his throwing knives, launching one at Ghoul's remaining eye, the other at Saren. When time resumed, Ghoul lost his remaining eye, and Saren took a knife to the chest. "You ain't making it easy." Ryan stopped talking, however, when green gas came out of Saren's hazmat suit. The strange substance immediately rusted the streetlight below the Psycho, causing the electrical parts to short-circuit and the metal to slowly bend. Saren put a hand on the opening, trying to keep the gas inside.
He knew she was full of hot air.
"I'll kill you," Ghoul whined, his face now looking like a strawberry sorbet with all the frozen blood flowing from his skull. It was vaguely horrifying, but Ryan had seen worse. "I'll kill you. Ghoul, I know the sight of my dashing costume and my long bloody bat made you fall for me at first sight," Ryan taunted him. "Trust me, I get that a lot. But I just don't see you that way." "I swear to God, I swear it," rasped the abominable ice cream, his hands on his face. "If you crack a joke again, you will give me the cold shoulder?" Ryan chuckled, unable to resist. Ghoul exploded in a snarl of fury, his body swallowed by white mist. The strange substance seemed to swirl around him, creating layers upon layers of stalagmites. When it dissipated, Ghoul was gone, replaced with a 4 meters tall titan of ice and snow. This strange fusion between a snowman and a hedgehog had maces instead of hands, and a thick defense of ice spikes.
"Oh."
Ryan barely had the time to leap to the side, as the enormous snowman attempted to squash him like a bug. The sheer strength of the elemental construct shattered the concrete and shook the ground. Saren, meanwhile, was too busy trying to cover the hole in her suit to assist. How did Ghoul manage to make that body work? Ice didn't work that way, it couldn't even bend. Ryan called cheating. A rumbling noise echoed across the parking lot, growing louder with each new step. Something heavy was rushing towards the battlefield, to claim part of the glory.
Quick save.
Zanbato entered the parking lot, his hands manifesting a sword of crimson light. The security is coming. I thought you guys paid them off? Ryan asked, dodging another strike from Ghoul. He wondered how the psycho could locate him without his eyes, guessing it probably had something to do with temperature. We paid them to ignore a delivery run, not the harbor's destruction. Zanbato glanced at the two psychos present, and first cut the streetlight on which Saren stood. Miss Chernobyl glided to the other end of the parking lot, confirming Ryan's suspicions that she was made of gas. Zanbato switched target from Saren to her compatriot, who was closer. Moving at great speeds in spite of the heaviness of his armor, he cut through the giant snowman's leg like a turkey, slicing it clean in half. Yet the limb quickly reattached itself to the body, Zanbato having to step back to avoid being frozen by mist. The Augusti mafioso still tried to hack at the giant, proving himself so annoying that Ghoul abandoned his pursuit of Ryan to attack this new foe. The sound of an aircraft echoed above them, Ryan raising his eyes to watch an attack helicopter fly above the parking lot. He recognized it as a customized Augusta A129 Mangusta, piloted by two security guards. Ryan waved a pile of bank notes at them, as a sign of friendship. They responded with a missile. Ryan stopped time just long enough to move out of the bomb's way, thankful that they didn't use laser weapons. He was fast but not as much as light. When time resumed, he quickly realized that the private security targeted everyone, the missile impacting in the middle of the battlefield. Zanbato protected his face with his hand and avoided being knocked back, his armor deflecting debris, while Ghoul's snowman form took the projectiles without showing any form of discomfort. Saren, however, was pushed backward by the blast, quickly getting back on her feet with fury.
Fuck off.
Hazmat Girl moved a hand to cover the hole in her suit, and the other towards the skies. A second later, she fired a blast straight at the helicopter, destroying its tail and sending it on a crash course towards the ground. Alright, it had gone on long enough.
Playtime's over.
As Saren pointed her gauntlet at Ryan, the courier stopped time for the last time. He glanced at the helicopter, to assess if he had to rescue the guards, only to notice a flying form next to the aircraft. A humanoid figure, nearly impossible to see in the darkness, and only visible due to the smoke blurring their features. Probably a genome on Dynami's payroll, rescuing the guards. Good. That meant Ryan could focus on the ground. The time manipulator moved behind Saren, avoiding the clouds of toxic fumes hanging in the air from her wound, and moved her hand towards Ghoul. Time resumed, and the giant snowman took a full, sustained blast of compressed air head-on. Physics being physics, the ice construct exploded in a rain of droplets and shards, a helpless Ghoul hitting the ground face first. Zanbato quickly cut him in half execution style, while the helicopter crashed on the frozen beach further west. Suddenly realizing what happened, Saren barely had the time to turn her head around and look over her shoulder.
Blow this.
And Ryan introduced her to Fisty, face first. The pisto gauntlet shattered her mask's glass parts and tossed her backward. Ryan barely had the time to dodge by leaping to the side, as the holes in her mask unleashed a stream of gas. Like a balloon, Miss Hazmat flew towards the horizon at full speed, unable to control her trajectory. She continued for a while, before finally crashing into the distant supertanker's wreck. Ryan glanced at Fisty, making a face as the gas rusted the pistons into scrap within seconds. Yeah, sure, he could have ended it a lot sooner by gutting them in the stop time. But life wasn't about winning.
It was about having fun. Is she dead?
Zanbato asked, upon reaching quick save. I'm not sure, Ryan shrugged, before realizing he couldn't see his favorite undead among the snowman's remains.
Is Ghoul? No, that's his other power.
He never dies, even when missing the right organs.
He's immortal too?
Ryan gasped, shocked.
He won't enjoy it much.
I cut him in more pieces than a birthday cake and tossed the head into the sea. Zanbato glanced at the space where Saren had blasted the private security's helicopter. The machine had crashed into the Mediterranean Sea, the mysterious superhero gone. Luigi's team has already left, and we should make our escape before more security guards arrive. Can you give me a lift? Anytime, Ryan replied, whistling. He could already hear his self-driven Plymouth Fury circle around the battlefield to reach them. Your car can move by itself?
Zanbato asked, impressed.
If you really want to know, Ryan confided, I don't have a driver's license. In the end, the duo left the harbor in ruins, and almost crossed paths with 3 private security armored minivans. Before leaving the area, Ryan had given a last glance at the destroyed helicopter, the remains having sunk into the sea. He hoped the guards were okay, they were just doing their job, albeit a bit too zealously, and if they had died he would consider creating a new loop to save their lives. You can leave me at this corner, Zanbato pointed at a railroad station. My girlfriend will pick me up. You have a girlfriend?
Ryan asked.
That's wonderful. Yes, I already told. Zonbato stopped himself. I get it. I'll introduce the two of you one day. I'm sure you will get along. Same sense of humor. Without false modesty, I am inimitable.
That's for sure.
Zonbato replied with a chuckle, climbing down of the car and stepping on the walkway, two drunk guys passing by them. Look about your girl. If it's her tech for the submarines, then I'll ask Vulcan for you. We'll solve that mystery in no time.
I would appreciate it, Zon. Can I call you Zon?
Or Zani. Jamie, the samurai replied, shaking Ryan's hand before leaving. You can call me Jamie. Ryan watched him leave with a fine feeling of contentment.
What a fine night.
Not only did Ryan find a lead towards Len, he also made a new friend.
A nice, friendly mobster fellow.
Certainly, it locked him on to the Augusti path, but so far so good. A few more missions and they would give him the critical information he needed to find his best friend. But that would wait after a night of good, gentle sleep. He would have to repair his rusted fisty tomorrow morning, and dodging attacks all night had exhausted him. 1 hour's drive later, Ryan finally reached the door of his hotel room, ready to collapse on the bed. His hand touched the doorknob, feeling a little pressure fight against his push.
Click. MMM.
Before Ryan knew what hit him, the floor exploded in gas and fire. It was May 8, 2020 for the 5th time, so Ryan stopped his Plymouth Fury in the middle of the road. Of course, quite a few motorists honked him in response, threatening the genome with bodily harm if he didn't move. The courier ignored them, meditating on what just happened, before reaching a decision. I'm changing hotels, Ryan promised, driving back to Renesco. This city isn't safe at all. He wondered if inns were insured against terrorist attacks. Not to change a winning day, Ryan redid everything like last time. He arrived at Renesco's place, waited for Ghoul to get in, then smashed the psycho with his Plymouth from behind. However, as he opened the trunk to grab his baseball bat and finish the job, the courier felt a pang of guilt. Could he live with such laziness? Beating an old bag of bones the exact same way, over and over again? Couldn't he give this moment a little more dignity and uniqueness? For the sake of novelty, Ryan grabbed his shotgun instead. He waltzed toward Ghoul and shot him in the left knee before he could even realize what was going on. The undead bastard almost collapsed, but managed to hang on to the counter. Hey, are you all right? The courier asked his favorite target practice companion.
You don't look all right.
You shot me, the psycho snarled, half surprised, half angered. You shot me in the leg. Do you need to go to the hospital? Ryan asked with kindness, reloading the shotgun. I'm going to. Ryan shot Ghoul in the other knee, making him collapse to the ground screaming.
You bastard. And now you do.
The courier had the feeling they were going to do this routine a lot. After shooting Ghoul everywhere it mattered, and even places where it didn't, Ryan paid off Renesco and the private security, before diverging from the previous loop. Having learned his lesson from last time, Ryan chose another hotel, one where he hopefully shouldn't have his room firebombed, a place away from the tourist areas. He drove south, towards the plebeian district, and he could already see the reason for the name. As soon as he left the strip and tourist hotspots, the architecture changed. Casinos and nightclubs vanished, replaced with 3-story apartment buildings clustered together and narrow alleys. Small markets and cafes gave off a tantalizing smell of food. Eventually, Ryan reached the Arab district, which he recognized by the billboard ads, most written in Arabic and Turkish, although he caught a little Spanish here and there. The locals called it Little Maghrib from what Ryan had heard. He drove by a perfect replica of the Synagogue of Turin. Ryan had visited the original, although he had needed a hazmat suit to survive the trip through the irradiated city, standing next to a mosque. Both buildings were slightly derelict, showing how little Dynamis and other corporations cared about maintaining religious sites. However, the site that caught his attention was a hill at the south, which seemed to be the city's highest natural point. An enormous estate stood atop it, roughly the size of the Vatican, and whose architecture was clearly inspired by antiquity work. It included an oversized, multiple-floor Roman villa, fountains, a private park, and even a smaller replica of the Greek Parthenon. Clearly, whoever lived there had a huge god complex. Why the obsession with marble columns though? Why did nobody ever add obelisks, for diversity? And strangely, nothing was built around that estate for kilometers, and only one way led to the summit, the hill being surrounded by a fortified fence and security forces.
Curious.
Ryan had a good idea who inhabited those halls, and so decided to stay as far away from it as possible. Yes, there were a few people against whom Ryan didn't dare to test his immortality against, at least not yet. Especially now that he had a lead on Len after so many years. His hotel was a lot dirtier than the previous one. The owner had traded security cameras for cockroaches in the walls, and Ryan's bed smelled of bliss, that mushroom drug everyone consumed nowadays. Someone even drew a dick graffiti in the shower, alongside a number to call a prostitute. Ryan did the sensible thing. He called, out of curiosity. Yeah, a male voice answered. Ryan glanced at the graffiti, then ended the call without a word, chuckling to himself. Some things never changed. The next morning, like in the previous loop, Ryan did science in his underwear. This time though he focused more on reinforcing Fisty, to prevent the ice trick that allowed Ghoul to jam it in their last encounter. The courier couldn't have his weapons underperform while beating up an old bone yeller. He also did Dynanet research about sightings of submarines and bathyspheres in the local Gulf but found nothing. He did learn that the old island of Ischia, the one he had seen while driving on the coast, was a toxic ruin since Mechren bombed Italy back to the Stone Age. Unlike other areas, corporations never bothered to renovate it. The Augusti had to send those crates somewhere, and there must have been a reason why they used genius-made submarines rather than boats. Maybe it was to send supplies to the island? He couldn't prove it, but Ryan had a good feeling about it. A knock on his window interrupted his research, like the sight of a familiar winged heroine. Ryan replayed the same conversation as last time, except on the 3rd floor rather than the 10th. Wyvern seemed a little more nervous than in the last loop though. Maybe it was the closeness to the mountain estate? Also, Ryan noticed the locals had emptied the street below his bedroom when Wyvern showed up. They didn't seem to like Il Migli or around here. You say the meta will break out Ghoul today, with the complicity of corrupt private security guards? Wyvern frowned. How do you know that? You don't ask a magician to reveal his tricks, Ryan protested. I'm just saying you should probably escort the creepy undead yourself. From what I heard, even if they break him out, he won't run far. The medic said he had more bullets than intact bones in his body. Wyvern marked a short pause, focusing on her earplug.
Looks like you were right.
The meta are ambushing Ghoul's transport convoy as we speak, in broad daylight.
Oh, so that's why she left in a hurry before?
She clearly hadn't been fast enough last loop. Maybe this time would do the trick? Before you go save the world and save me a mini-boss battle later, Ryan pointed in the direction of the hill, and the estate on it. What is the name of this beautiful and not at all suspicious Roman-themed park?
Officially? Hillside.
Unofficially? Wyvern sighed. Mount Augustus. He even plagiarized Mount Olympus but renamed it after himself. It should have been called Mount Narcissus. Take care, Wyvern told Ryan after giving him a business card, before flying off without a sound. Ryan watched her vanish at high speed, wondering if she would make it this time. Anyway, in spite of that little divergence, he didn't have to worry. He just had to wait for Vulcan's call and everything would be back on track. Since he was close to Augusti territory, no doubt they would contact him again in short order. The call would come any second now. Any second now.
Kaboom!
The sound of a distant explosion startled Ryan, who opened the window. He noticed a pillar of smoke reaching up to the skies, somewhat in the direction where Wyvern flew.
Shit.
Vulcan didn't call him all day long. Disturbed, Ryan went to the Bakuto casino anyway at night, but the guards refused to let him in when he arrived in costume. Unlike last time, they gently told him to fuck off after noticing his A-bomb. As if it was a crime to carry a thermonuclear device nowadays. So Ryan returned but unmasked and in civilian clothes. He even put on a classy red tie. This time, he managed to slip in, the guards mistaking him for a normal client. Hey, friendly nameless extra, Ryan asked a card croupier, playing blackjack with a well-dressed group of professional gamblers straight out of Casino Royale. I am looking for Zonbato. Have you seen him?
Zonbato, the croupier frowned. No, he's not here tonight.
My plumber friend Luigi then? The dealer shrugged his shoulders. No, I don't think so. What is it about? I can give them a message if I see them.
Damn it.
Still, Ryan approached the dealer's ear and whispered into it. The orange is in the henhouse. The orange is in the henhouse?
It's a code, they will understand.
Their lives depend on it, so don't screw up. The dealer nodded seriously, promising to deliver the message.
But still, goddammit.
Clearly things had gone off the rails somewhere, but what caused it?
Shooting Ghoul? The hotel switch?
Warning Wyvern about Ghoul's escape? Whatever it was, it made him fall off the Augusti's radar or change their priorities, just when he finally found a lead on Len. Ryan stayed at the casino just in case, playing for hours. Knowing the results of every game, he accumulated quite a nice sum at the roulette and Coliseum bets, although he was very careful never to overplay his hand. Having entire lifetime's worth of cheating experience, the courier had mastered the art of looking like a professional gambler, sacrificing money when needed, discussing overcomplicated probability theories with other players, and faking nerve-wracking tension while waiting for the results. He also played legitimately at poker and blackjack, not even using his time stop to look at his rival's hands. In the end, the main defense against anti-seer methods was banality. Seers were rare and usually obvious, always trying to win it big, while skilled gamblers and talented amateurs were legion. Ryan just had to convince guards he belonged to the latter group, winning high but believable amounts, and it did the work. Ryan usually enjoyed these tricks, but his heart wasn't in it. Instead, he kept asking himself questions. Should he go to the supply run at the harbor even without being invited? It could get him right back on the Augusti path, but Ryan wasn't sure if it would even happen now. Also, who killed him in the last loop? The Meta were the obvious suspect, but it could also be an unrelated hit. Since the courier took a job for the Augusti after denying Wyvern, Dynamis could have simply ordered him dead. No, the easiest solution was to reload and deviate after receiving the Augusti mission, but Ryan needed to die first.
Car crash? Too common already.
Traffic had killed him almost as often as enemy genomes. Bullet to the head? The last time Ryan tried, he woke up 6 months later, the medics congratulating themselves on their miraculous surgery. Train tracks? Unoriginal, everybody did that nowadays. Roman suicide? Thematic and classy, but he would have to find a sword or hemlock.
Nice play.
Ryan glanced at the left of his table, noticing that a stunning woman had taken a seat right next to him. She was an elegant lady with long black hair, a crimson gown, and a beauty spot on the right cheek. She played with a glass full of alcohol, clearly trying to get Ryan's attention. "This is the first time I've seen you around here." It was strange how everybody wanted to be Ryan's friend when he started making money. Was it his magnetic personality? "Sorry, I'm thinking about something else." "What could be more important than accumulating a big pile of money?" she asked, flirtatiously playing with her glass. "I'm trying to find a suicide method that hasn't been done before. Something original and over the top." The question took her aback, but the woman did consider it. "Jumping into MT Vesuvius?" she proposed. Ryan could have sworn he already experienced a similar conversation in a previous loop. Already done, though with Etna rather than Vesuvius. "I didn't know," she replied, sipping her cocktail. "Do you want to commit suicide, or is this just theoretical?" Already bored with the conversation and failing to find a suicide method he hadn't already tried, Ryan raised his hand at a waiter. "Can I have an electric fan?" "A fan, sir?" the waiter asked, confused. Ryan answered by giving him a €300 tip. 1 minute later, he had his fan. While he took most of his winnings for himself, the genome piled up thousands of euros banknotes in front of the fan, aiming for the center of the casino. The woman at his side probably guessed what crossed his mind, if the flash of recognition in her eyes was of any indication. Ryan switched on the fan, which sent euro bills flying all over the casino. "To the fastest," he shouted as loud as he could, a flash of greed in everyone's eyes. When the genome exited the Bakuto, all the locals were fighting over the bills, the woman included. Even the bouncers and the staff tried to grab a fistful. Ignoring the chaos he started, Ryan glanced at Wyvern's business card and the Dynamis logo on its back. Should he check them out?
No.
Len was his priority, his only priority. He was tired of these long years of loneliness, and he wanted to find her at all costs. The Augusti had provided him hints already. Ryan knew people used her genius technology, and that people traded such devices in Rust Town. If the Augusti path was closed to him for this loop, then he should try to figure out where they could have obtained the bathyspheres. If there was a black market for genius goods, he should check it out. He could always kill himself afterward. When the locals said that Rust Town was walled off, they weren't kidding. As he drove as north as possible, Ryan began to see the fortifications separating the district from the rest of New Rome. They weren't so much walls as a mix of tall steel cylinders, wired fences, mounted cameras, and surveillance systems. Trained genomes occupying watchtowers pushed back clouds of pollution away from the touristic areas and into Rust Town with wind manipulation, so rich people wouldn't breathe the same air as the lower classes. Since they all seemed to produce currents of air, Ryan assumed they used the knockoff elixir marketed as Tempest, that gave its user minor aerokinesis. As he drove around the fortress in search of an entrance point, the genome put on Dynami's radio, listening to the news. "We received confirmation that the explosion in Little Maghreb yesterday was the result of a short duel between our beloved protector Wyvern and the criminal genome known as Vulcan." Ryan immediately raised the volume. Vulcan, formerly known as Urban Guerrilla, briefly served as Wyvern's sidekick before joining the criminal syndicate known as the Augusti. Reports indicate Vulcan was forced to flee after causing great collateral. Oh, so that was why Vulcan didn't contact him this time. Little Maghreb was probably close to the Augusti's hideout, and he or she, Ryan didn't remember, decided to ambush Wyvern when the opportunity presented itself. They probably took heavy wounds and Ryan fell off their radar afterward. Would the courier have to change hotels again? No, better to stay in the first hotel until Wyvern contacted him, and then switch places to avoid the assassination attempt that ended the last loop. The psycho-cryokinetic known as Ghoul attempted to escape containment by the private security early yesterday, but was quickly recaptured by Il Miglior, the radio continued. Enrique Manada, manager of the superhero team, stated that as long as Dynamis remains strong, warlords and madmen will never gain a foothold in New Rome's. At least warning Wyvern did make a difference. She probably relayed his tip about the private security being compromised to her team, who intervened in time. Then again, it must have been hard for Ghoul to run away without his legs. Ryan eventually reached a border checkpoint guarded by 3 private security guards. All of them carried riot gear and laser rifles. Their chief made Ryan a sign to stop, and the genome did his best to look innocent. It was pretty hard with the mask and full quick-save attire, but it was the attitude that counted.
Halt, the guard said.
No entry without proper authorization or work permit. I'm just visiting, Ryan said. I heard they have a zoo.
It is a zoo, the guard grumbled.
Look, citizen, this is the frontier of civilization. Beyond is the untamed urban wilderness, and we're the only people standing between New Rome and the hordes of barbarians who would tear it down. Well, when I see you, I do fear for civilization. You should, the man replied, missing the obvious sarcasm. So if you want to pass with proper authorization, you will have to contribute to our community's mutual defense.
Sure, Ryan replied.
You aren't going to check my car for drugs, weapons, or anything dubious. I swear, I'm clean as the day I was born. Depends on how much you contribute to the community. No wonder that the Augustan Meta could get in and out so easily. Since the guards weren't even trying to hide their corruption, they probably had very few surprise inspections. The second he passed the checkpoint, Ryan understood why they called it Rust Town. First and foremost, the air quality dropped drastically, even worse than the harbor. The smell of rust and chemicals was so pervasive, the courier wondered if someone dumped toxic waste out in the open. Ryan had to raise his car's windows and activate his mask's air filter just to make it bearable. Almost every house and 3-floor apartment buildings had fallen into a state of disrepair. Windows were broken, cinder block walls were covered in graffiti, some even crumbling. The neighborhood was positively claustrophobic, narrow streets forming a labyrinth of alleys almost too small for his car to move in, fire escapes casting them in shadow in spite of the daylight. Streetlights didn't work well, and a thick layer of smog colored the world in sickly yellow. Every piece of metal seemed to rust, probably due to the pollution. Even Ryan, who had seen it all, felt appalled by the locals' living conditions. Squatters had overtaken everything, dealers openly peddled bliss to homeless people, and the locals avoided Ryan's gaze when he looked at them. They all wore scarves, face masks, or other protections against the gas, even the children. At one point, the driver drove past a corpse, left to rot in muddy waters due to an overflowing sewer entrance. A pack of wild dogs waited nearby next to a pile of trash, perhaps waiting for Ryan to leave to feed. Ryan had made jokes about everything, but he couldn't muster the energy for humor today. Seeing a dealer who didn't avert his gaze, he lowered his window to ask where he could find genius-made tech. The local gave the directions for a place called Polly's shop, although not before trying to sell Ryan a gram of bliss for an outrageous sum. It appeared prices had gone up since the metas started hitting the local dealers' suppliers. Ryan didn't have any trouble finding Polly's shop, mainly because he had garish neon lights on his establishment sign, although the man could have chosen a wider, dead-end alley for his establishment. The genome parked his car in front of the door, grabbed his coil gun just in case, and then walked in.
Here's Johnny,
Ryan shouted, opening the door without knocking. The shop could be more aptly described as a disorganized garage, with shelves made of accumulated junk. It was a true and poorly ventilated wilderness of tools, scavenged car parts hung from the ceiling, and bulbs provided as little light as possible. The man behind the counter was a scrawny, balding little man in his 40s, half French, half British. Ryan could identify these strange creatures on sight. In response to his unforgettable entrance, the shopkeeper had immediately raised a rocket launcher at his client. Probably scavenged genius tech from the design. A flash of recognition flashed in Polly's eyes, behind his goggles.
It's you. Yes, me.
Ryan was so happy, he had become so famous, people recognized him on sight. Are you one of my fans?
I knew I had a few.
A fan, the shopkeeper almost choked, aiming the weapon at Quicksave's face. You maniac, you destroyed my old workshop in Otranto.
I did that.
Ryan asked, confused.
When?
2 years ago you crashed a plane on it, and then you gave me a letter.
Polly snarled.
You had been hired to deliver my mail, and you said you wanted to make an unforgettable entrance. Well, it did sound like something he would do. Ryan observed the man with attention, and he seemed vaguely familiar.
But. No. Nope. Nothing. Maybe.
Quicksave shrugged his shoulders. You don't remember? Polly asked, astonished. Well, you clearly took it more personally than I ever did. When he realized the poor man may have been forced to live in this dump because of him, Ryan instantly regretted his joke.
Sorry.
Maybe I can pay you back for the bother. The shopkeeper ground his teeth in rage. Apparently, he didn't want Ryan's money. Get the hell out of my shop before I pull the trigger.
You know I can stop time, right?
It's a facehugger missile, the man replied. Once it's locked, the nano missile keeps pursuing the target until it's dead. What a way to start a business relationship. Normally, the courier would have taken the hint and left the shopkeeper alone, but he had a mission to fulfill. His coil gun lowered in one hand, Ryan searched in his coat, ignoring Polly's weapon. He brought out the plushie. At the sight of this white, beautiful rabbit plushie, Polly's face lost all colors. You know what this is, Ryan said, wagging his ultimate weapon at the shopkeeper. If you don't lower your weapon, I'm going to press the on button. We're in an enclosed space, and you can't control it. Neither can you. Ryan raised his thumb, preparing to activate the switch on his WMD's back.
I'll do it.
Don't do it. Polly threatened to pull his weapon's trigger.
I'ma do it.
The pressure in the room grew, Polly shaking, until his nerves gave away. Fuck, he said, dropping his weapon on the counter. How could you do that to a plushie? The most adorable thing, and you turned it into. It sounded like a good idea at the time. Quicksave argued, putting the plushie back in his coat for everyone's safety. I'm looking for homemade genius tech.
I can't help.
Polly laughed, happy to be as useless to Ryan as possible.
You couldn't have picked a worse moment.
The junkyard is closed, nobody sells anything. I'm not looking to buy, Ryan replied, glancing at the establishment with disappointment. Even the weapon Polly wielded was shoddy and ready to crumble after firing a shot. I'm looking for a very specific technology. Bathyspheres used to make supply runs in the water. Crimson paint, steampunk influence. Like lens tech. Polly jumped back, startled, as Ryan closed the gap between the counter and himself in the blink of an eye. Polly, the genome all but purred. Do you want to be my friend? No, the shopkeeper replied bluntly. Then tell me everything. The shopkeeper let out a sigh of disgust. Black hair, blue eyes, a bit crazy? It's called Marxism-Leninism, but yes, Ryan replied, more and more excited. That's the same girl then. She arrived in Rust Town 6 months ago, calling herself the Underdiver. Ryan never heard of that nickname. To his disappointment, Quicksave and the Underdiver didn't sound well as a comedic duo. Maybe Q and U? The Undersavers? Just one of the geniuses trying to do business without Dynamis or Augustus recruiting them. See what I mean? There used to be a big black market here for genomes like her, who don't have enough resources to be self-sufficient, but wanted to remain independent from big groups. Ryan nodded, silent, and entirely focused on the shopkeeper. The rapturous attention seemed to disturb Polly, but it only encouraged him to speak faster. Anyway, she had managed to make herself an armor from scavenged stuff. It looked like an old-world gym diving suit. She kept asking me for parts to maintain it, so we met often. Did it have a minigun?
Ryan asked. Polly made a strange face.
How do you know that? Because he knew her perfectly. Please continue. Anyway, she sold some of her inventions to the Augusti to make ends meet. You must know that she was very passionate. Ryan nodded knowingly. She ended up attacking a chemical plant owned by Dynamis to protest about the working conditions there.
That was Len, all right.
Always with that strange, almost cute sense of justice, obsessive desire to protect the weak, and hatred of private ownership.
And then? What happened? What happened?
Guess what happened? The private security attacked her workshop and caught her. I heard rumors that the Augusti broke her out, but nothing from her afterward.
She vanished.
This confirmed that the Augusti were likely the one true path to Len and should be favored, although, the fact the private security captured her means they probably had a file on her. Still, that was more information he had learned since forever. Ryan was in a good mood.
An exceptional mood.
For this information, Polly, he decided on a whim, I shall grant you a wish. Grant me a wish, the shopkeeper frowned in disdain. You think you're Robin Williams? Finally, a man of culture in this dissolute city. Of course not, I can only grant one wish, not 3. Polly prepared to blow him off, before marking a short pause.
A thought crossed his mind. You aren't kidding?
You are serious. Whatever it is, I'll fulfill it. No matter how many tries. Quicksave always honored his word. What do I have to lose? Nobody else will do anything about it. Polly put his hands on the counter, joining his fingers. You know a psycho gang moved into Rust Town recently? The Meta Gang?
You want me to Tarantino them? He nodded in confirmation.
They've taken over the junkyard where most exchanges take place a few days ago, and then things got worse. They get worse every day. The genomes, they kill them and drain their blood. The normies, they abduct straight off the street. I don't know what the psychos do with them, but you don't see them again.
Paulie clenched his teeth.
Even kids have gone missing. A chill went down Ryan's spine, and his heart hardened. As he had told Zonbato, kids were sacred for him. Especially since he got along with them better than adults, and he had had a crappy childhood himself. Does the private security know? They know, they just don't care. Private security only protects key infrastructure like the power plant or the water treatment station, which I have to admit, they do zealously. The rest are just frontier guards who couldn't care less about what happens within the walls.
Paulie sneered in disgust.
They don't give a shit if a few homeless, junkies, and lowlifes go missing. The psychos are doing them a favor, cleaning out their glitzy city's trash. What about Wyvern and Il Miglior? Wyvern gets in a fight with a lone meta sometimes, Paulie admitted. But she's the only one who cares. And she can't be everywhere. Until the meta kill too many workers, assault tourists or steal an elixir shipment, Dynamis won't lift a damn finger.
Wait, Ryan interrupted him.
The meta have been here for days, and they haven't attacked Dynamis elixir shipments or genomes?
Paulie shook his head. That's odd, the genome pointed out.
Psychos don't act like that. They usually make a mess of themselves trying to get knockoff elixirs to feed their addiction, things escalate with locals, and then they go on a rampage. It's always the same pattern.
He should know, he had lived with one.
And yet these psychos were awfully restrained by their kind standards. Come to think of it, from what he had heard, the meta hadn't attacked Dynami's infrastructures at all. They only tried to drive the Augusti out of Rust Town. The reason was easy to guess. Dynamis couldn't care less about the area unless its buildings or agents were attacked. If ignored, they wouldn't lift a finger. Ryan had thought the metagang had come to New Rome to fuel its addiction, but clearly, something else was at work. Unfortunately for Paulie, Len was Ryan's only priority for now. But he would honor his word, no matter what it took. I will fulfill your wish in my perfect run, the genome promised, I swear.
Your perfect run?
You're jogging.
It's the perfect ending, Ryan explained.
It was a concept he had developed over his endless wandering. If he gathered every piece of information possible about a given place and inhabitants through his loops, then he could create the optimal situation. He would then dedicate his last loop to creating the perfect chain of events, which guaranteed the best outcome by his standards. Then, and only then, would Ryan create a new save point and move on. After learning where to go to reach the junkyard from its occupant, Ryan left Paulie's shop through the door and prepared to drive straight into the meta's nest. But then a bug landed on his Plymouth, flattening it. Ryan froze as an enormous 3 meters tall monster crashed on his car, crushing the roof, destroying the window, and shattering the engine. The creature looked like a twisted fusion between a human and a mosquito, a monstrous insect with a black exoskeleton and crimson flesh beneath. Its eyes set on quick save with hunger, his claws raised. I knew, the mosquito rasped, his voice closer to an insect's buzzing than a man's words. I smelled a rat sneaking eye.
My car.
Ryan screamed in horror, his sudden wail startling the psycho. The courier immediately stopped time, rushing to his Plymouth Fury and checking on its health. Could he save it? Could he save it?
No.
The damage was too extensive. Ryan was overwhelmed with fury, and quickly considered going on a Kill Bill rampage, first against the mosquito, then every psycho he could find. He would show them the terror of hell unending.
A curse straight out of Tartarus. But
Ryan couldn't bear to live without his beloved Plymouth. With a depressed sigh, the courier grabbed a small metal sphere from his coat, and let time resume. You see this? He raised the sphere at the psycho.
You see this? What is this, a ball?
Now look at my car which you destroyed, then back to the ball.
It's an A-bomb. Click. Now catch.
Ryan tossed the bomb at the mosquito, who caught it with his hand due to sharp reflexes. The psycho looked at the weapon, then back at Ryan, confused and horrified. Nobody touches my car, Quicksave said.
Nobody.
As Rust Town exploded in a burst of nuclear fire, vaporizing the two superhumans with a flash of searing light, Ryan felt happy. Finally, a new method he had never tried before. They once called it the City of Canals. They said it was the most beautiful city in the world, with tourists coming all the way from China to visit it. That was before the wars. More than a decade after, Venezia had become an open grave, a poisonous marsh whose canals overflowed with toxic plants and dark mud. Some islands had sunk, their supports destroyed by Mecran's drone bombardments. Most houses had fallen into disrepair, invaded by worms and insects, their rooms full of old human bones. Meanwhile, the city's outskirts had been taken over by raiders, who used boats to attack coastal communities. At least, they did until yesterday. Until Ryan's group arrived. It wasn't the teens' choice though. Len's dad basically dragged them there from the city of Rubano, when he heard the local raiders had genomes among their number. That maniac could never resist the lure of easy targets, leaving the rest of them to salvage stuff while he went hunting. The wiser bandits had fled without looking back, the others had perished, their exsanguinated corpses tossed into the waters. Genomes and normies both. Nobody could defeat Len's dad.
Nobody.
Except maybe Augustus or Leo Hargraves, but so far they hadn't met. His face covered by a scarf to protect him from the foul air, Ryan chased away these dark thoughts and glanced at the stone house in front of him. Dusty, half-rotten books were piled up in its courtyard, forming a strange staircase to climb above the walls nearby.
Riri.
Len called him from within.
Come.
I've found a treasure. Curious, the 16-year-old teenager stepped inside the house while whistling. As expected, it was some kind of library, albeit one unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Piled-up books formed a true labyrinth of walls and twisting turns, to the point they could probably crush him dead if they ever collapsed. Unlike other areas of the city, vegetation hadn't taken over, and marauders had clearly ignored the building. Nobody respected culture nowadays.
He found Len on a boat.
Literally. The owners had moved a gondola inside the library before filling it with books. His best friend laid on her back atop a pile, reading something.
Hey, a shorty.
A tomboyish girl his age, Len was a tiny bit smaller than Ryan and disliked being called out on it, so of course, he teased her mercilessly. You're reading Gulliver's Travels? I'm not short, I'm growing. Len complained, interrupting her lecture to glare at him with her beautiful blue eyes. Ryan often thought he could see the sea she loved so much in them. Her skin was pale, her raven hair reaching her shoulders. Truly a modern Snow White, although she dressed in brown travel clothes rather than noble gowns. Now come over here before I throw a dictionary at your face. Ryan laid next to his best friend, their shoulders touching, and peeked at the cover. While ancient and yellowed by age, the book seemed relatively well preserved. Vingt mille lieues sous les mers, écrit par Jules Verne. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, written by Jules Verne, French edition, Len translated, her eyes all but shining. She already had 2 copies of that book, but none in the original language. You can't imagine how long I've been looking for it. The translations are terrible. I thought you couldn't read French, mais non? Ryan mocked her, Len pinching his arm in response.
Ouch.
You deserve it, Riri, she replied. J'ai appris le français, merci bien beaucoup.
Le français, Ryan corrected her.
And you can remove the bien.
She sighed.
Just take a book and shut up. I think they have How to Win Friends and Influence People, which you really need to read. I like reading, but not as much as eating, Ryan said. Len had filled her supply bag to the brim with books, and nothing else. Unless you want to make me eat your Communist Manifesto? If you do that, I will eat you, Riri. With a fork. She waved a hand at the library. This place wouldn't have become a toxic dump had the communist revolution happened. Maybe it would have been a gulag instead, Ryan replied, delighting at teasing her beliefs. People messed it up, but the concept is right, Len protested, closing her book and putting it on her chest. Is it wrong to think everyone should be equal?
No, just naive.
It could still happen, Len insisted with cheerful optimism. Everything has been rebooted back to zero. The world has changed. Yes, but not human nature. You're too cynical for your own good, Riri. She closed her book and put it in her travel bag, behind the gondola. When do you think Dad will come back? Once he ran out of victims.
I don't know.
She looked at him in silence, their eyes locking. They rarely had moments of privacy, where they could breathe without her father looking. Ryan looked at eyes, then at her lips. Do it, do it, do it.
But he chickened out.
Her face unreadable, Len let out a sigh. Ryan wasn't sure if it was out of relief or disappointment. Can you help me remove the books from that boat? She asked. We could make it a bed. You want to sleep there? Ryan balked at it. The wood was so damaged, it could crumble any time.
Yeah, she said. Yeah.
I always wanted to have my own ship. Do you know more than 80% of the ocean is unmapped? You want to sleep in the gondola or put it to use?
We could find one, she said, daydreaming. A real ship. Or make one.
Sail away like the explorers of old. With or without your dad? Ryan asked the hard question. Len didn't respond, which was an answer in itself. Without a word, she rose back on her feet and started removing the books with Ryan's help. Once they were done, Len examined the boat's bottom, her eyebrows narrowing.
She said, thoughtful. Could it be? What?
That type of gondola, Len said. Do you know what it is? Sorry, I'm not a ship geek like you. Instead of answering, Len knocked at a spot at the gondola's back end.
You heard that? Nothing.
Exactly, Len said triumphantly. This type of boat often has a hidden compartment. They carried messages, money, or even drugs. You would think marauders already found it, Ryan pointed out. It's not common knowledge, and you must know where to look to find it.
All ship geeks know that. She could be so smug sometimes.
Also, it's a library. Yeah, Ryan doubted many locals had visited the library, and considering the dust raised when they removed the book, nobody had touched the gondola in years. Pillagers must have examined the checkout and other obvious spots without looking too much into it. Remove that wooden plank. Len pointed at a spot. It's old, it shouldn't be hard.
Hey, why me? Ryan complained.
It's called work division, she replied with a bright smile. I think you work. If it's work, that means I'm getting paid. I will let you sleep in the gondola, Len winked at him.
The things he did for her.
In the end, as Len said, the wood was so damaged by time and termites, Ryan had no problem removing the planks with his bare hands. And as she thought, the boat did have a compartment, with one hell of a treasure within. A hexagonal, metal box, with a helix-shaped lock. The two teens could only hold their breath at this finding. No way, Len's eyes widened in shock. Is that what I think it is?
I believe so.
One of the mythical wonder boxes, sent by the alchemist to the first genomes. The devices which started the last Easter tragedy and the genome wars that followed. Ryan had no problem removing the lock, having spent years breaking into deserted homes to find supplies. The metal box opened, revealing a well-preserved letter and 3 syringes full of swirling liquid. One blue, one violet, and one red. Each bore a swirling, multicolored helix symbol.
Elixirs.
Ryan opened the letter, Len peeking at the content over his shoulder.
The paper was handwritten.
Congratulations, Mr. Rossi. You have been selected to participate in a grand sociogenetic experiment of my design. You do not know me, but I know you, Mr. Rossi. I believe that you are a fine specimen of the Homo sapiens species, possessing the necessary skills, intelligence, and genes to lead humanity into the next phase of its biological evolution. I grant you a miracle. This box contains 3 elixirs, selected at random among a selection of over 10 million distributed around the globe. You must have heard about them on the news. Yes, these serums grant a host of health benefits, including a unique power based on the color composition.
Green, life. Blue, information.
Violet, space-time. Red, energy.
Orange, matter.
Yellow, abstract.
White, metapower.
You are free to do as you wish with these elixirs. They are ready for immediate use and testing in the field. I would advise not to drink more than one, but the data gathered should be interesting nonetheless. Now, I must inform you that you are far from the only person to have received this gift. When you open your eyes next morning, the world you lived in will have ended. Instead, you will wake up in a world where mankind's potential is no longer constrained by the petty rules of reality. A world where everything is possible. I have no idea how this divine experiment will turn out, but I can't wait to see the results. Thank you for advancing the cause of science. Best of luck. The alchemist. He never opened the box, Len said with sorrow. Maybe he died before he could, Ryan replied. He probably hid the box before the bioweapons hit. You think the blue one can make you a genius?
Maybe, Ryan replied.
Geniuses were a slang for genomes, usually blue ones, with the ability to create advanced technology way ahead of their time. Mecron, the man who came closest to taking over the world, had been the most famous one. His self-replicating robot army had swept Eurasia until some countries pushed their big red button before they could fall next. Nobody remembered who had fired the first shot, but Mecron responded to the A-bombs with drone bombardments and bioweapons. Central Eurasia had become a nuclear wasteland, Southern Europe, a mass grave. At least this city wasn't irradiated, unlike Turin. Which one do you want to take?
Ryan asked his friend. Len paled. We can't drink this, she hissed. Dad will know.
He can sense it in the blood. Yeah, perhaps, but that may be our only chance to get away from him. I'm not abandoning Dad, Len replied with a glare. He's going to get better, I know that.
Fuck no, he isn't.
If anything, he was steadily getting worse. Now that Dynamis and Augustus had put a bounty on his head, he had to fend off hunters semi-regularly. Before he was just crazy and violent, but now he's violent and paranoid. He's never going to heal, and I think deep down you know I'm right. Len bit her lower lip, as she always did when stressed and sad. He's still my dad, she said, with a hint of resignation in the voice.
He will want them all. He doesn't have to know, Ryan argued.
Your father will get us all killed. Len, a shrilling voice echoed from outside.
Len.
Where are you?
Speaking of the devil.
Quickly, without thinking, Ryan grabbed an elixir in each hand and hid them in his back pockets alongside the letter. Realizing his intent, Len almost seized the last potion, but hesitated for too long. Ryan had the time to hide the blue and the violet elixirs when Len's dad crawled into the room. Len's dad was no longer a man. Not since he drank one elixir too many and underwent a mutation. His flesh, organs, and skin were all gone, leaving only a shapeless mass of blood covering the bones. He had become a faceless crimson puppet, his body constantly fluctuating. He even moved like a stringless doll, his arms flailing like whips. He left nothing behind, no bloody footprint. Both teens tensed, unconsciously moving closer to the other. "Ah, Cesare," the psycho said upon seeing Ryan. "Good to see you're taking care of your sister." His name wasn't Cesare, and they weren't related. But Ryan knew better than to say that out loud. Len's dad was sick. Very, very sick. Especially in the head. Sometimes, he was Len's dad, kind, friendly Freddy, who liked to play board games and watch old movies. But sometimes, he was just Bloodstream. And when the psycho noticed the wonder box and the red elixir, his body instantly solidified, his fingers turning into sharp claws. His lingering humanity vanished, overcome by an addiction stronger than anything else. Like a feral beast pouncing on a mouse, Bloodstream rushed at the box, brutally pushing Len out of the way. Her back hit a book wall, some of them falling behind. "Len!" Ryan screamed, immediately rushing to her side. Bloodstream ignored him, grabbing the red elixir and smashing the syringe. He didn't bother to inject anything, his body absorbing the content with greedy hunger. His blood fluctuated like a raging sea before stabilizing. Thankfully, Len was more stunned than harmed. However, her father frantically searched the box for any other elixir, before glancing at the teens. "Where's the rest?" Bloodstream hissed at the two, now outright screaming. "Where's the rest?" "There's nothing else." Ryan protested. "Liar." Bloodstream's hand turned into an axe. A son shouldn't lie to his father. "Dad, stop!" Len screamed. As if shaken out of his drug-fueled episode, Bloodstream immediately calmed himself. His hands returned to their normal shape, and he shook his head in confusion. The elixir would help stabilize his mutations, at least for a while. "Len. I'm sorry." Bloodstream put his hands around his skull as if struggling with a brain freeze. "Sorry." It's okay, Dad," Len said, looking away with her arms crossed. "It's okay." Bloodstream looked at his daughter with concern, his hands moving towards her. However, he backed down when Len flinched at his approach. The psycho remained eerily silent, before glancing at Ryan. "Cesare?" "Yes, Dad?" Ryan asked, loathing every word. "Len feels sad," Bloodstream said. "Smile for her." Ryan forced himself, although his lips couldn't reach his eyes. Thankfully, Len's dad couldn't distinguish a false smile from a real one. He put his bloody hand on the teen's hair, less like a son, and more like a pet. "You're a good boy, Cesare," Bloodstream said, no blood meshing with Ryan's hair. "You're a good boy." Len's brother Cesare was long dead. Bloodstream just refused to accept it. Neither teen pointed it out though. The last time Len's dad had broken out of his delusion, the psycho had almost strangled Ryan. He would have killed him too, had Len not calmed her father. Bloodstream only really listened to his daughter nowadays. Sometimes, not even her. It was always the same pattern. Their group would settle down for a while, Len's dad would have a violent episode, and either he wiped out the locals or they chased him off. The trio would have to move on, because when people realized that they couldn't kill Bloodstream, they went after Len and Ryan. Rinse and repeat. Ryan had lost count of how many places they had crashed over the last few years. One city at a time, they had eventually wandered all the way from Campania to Venezia. Bloodstream had them constantly on the move, chasing after isolated genomes whose elixir he could drain to satisfy his addiction. "Pack your things, kids," Bloodstream said. "This place is driving me crazy. We're going to Aqualand. You will like it, Len. You always liked water." Yes, Dad. I do." "I hope they have ice creams," Bloodstream said cheerfully, before leaving the room. Len looked at Ryan, who didn't think twice. They hugged tightly, and for a second Ryan wondered if he should let her go at all. He still had the elixirs in his pocket. They had to leave. It was May 8, 2020 for the 5th time, and Ghoul once again had a car accident. As he climbed down from his Plymouth Fury after hitting his favored undead maniac, Ryan took the time to look at his beautiful partner. The car he had rebuilt from the husk he had found in the ruins of Florence, all by himself. Over the years, Ryan had customized it into a marvel of technology that would make most geniuses envious. The courier had drifted for years at the driver's seat, survived countless explosions, rode over so many old people. The memories. All in all, his Plymouth was the one constant in his life, the thing most important to him after Len. The partner he could never find in any human being since they couldn't remember him from restart to restart. "I swear, I won't let anyone hurt you again," Ryan whispered to his car while stroking the hood, like a cat. "The bad psycho is gone." "Are you talking to your car?" Renesco asked from behind the bar counter. "I'm not the one judging you on your current company," Ryan replied, opening the car's back. Once again, he decided to do something new and interesting for this restart. A method to avenge his car's death upon the Metagang once more. "I know this sounds cliché," Ryan told Ghoul, raising the jumper cables while doing his best German accent. "But we have ways of making you talk." After delivering a shocked Ghoul to the private security, finishing his delivery, and paying everyone off, the courier thought about his next course of action. Intending to return to the Augusti path, without screwing it up this time, Ryan returned to the first hotel he had booked in the city center instead of the southern district. He met Wyvern, warned her of Ghoul's escape, and received her business card. This time, Vulcan contacted him as normal. He went to the Bakuto, met Zonbato, and received his mission. The day afterward, before he left the hotel, he hid a small remote camera in the room. Ryan had already booked a place somewhere else to avoid the assassination attempt, but he also wanted to catch a glimpse of the killer. This time, Saren showed up alone at the delivery. It appeared Ghoul remained in custody, and the meta couldn't spare anyone else as backup. Ryan would have wanted to say it had been a hard, tough fight. That he struggled for his life, and that Saren proved herself a welcome challenge. Instead, the battle lasted 10 seconds. He punched her in the face in the stop time with Fisty. Gas came out of the psycho's mask, and she crashed on the supertanker like before. She could dish out a lot of damage, but couldn't take it. They hadn't even destroyed the old harbor this time. "I'm bored," Quicksave complained, while the Augusti finished putting crates in the bathyspheres. The private security hadn't even shown up. "Good," Zonbato replied calmly. "That means things are running smoothly. I would rather have boring efficiency every day than chaotic excitement." "That's what she said," Ryan replied, drawing a cell phone out of his pocket. It was an old pre-war Samsung he had tinkered with, enhancing its performance to match newer devices. With it, he could observe through his bedroom's camera from afar. The camera didn't notice anything strange. According to the thermal sensors though, someone had flown close to the window, peeked through, and then left. Considering his room was on the 10th floor, definitively a genome. Now that he thought of it, he had glimpsed a flying hero during his first battle with Ghoul and Saren. Could it be the same person? "Does anybody know a flying invisible man or woman around here?" Ryan asked. Asking for a friend. "Anybody with 100k in their account can buy an invisibility elixir at Dynamis," Luigi replied, closing the bathyspheres after putting the last crates inside. He typed on his phone and the submarines vanished beneath the waves, carrying their supplies elsewhere. "For flight though. The only flyers in town I know of are Wyvern, Geist, Vulcan, Devilry, Wardrobe, Mosquito, and Saren," Zonbato said. "Among them, only Geist can turn invisible." "Does he spy on people at night by peeping through their window?" Ryan asked. What confused him was that the mysterious visitor didn't enter the room nor leave a bomb behind during this iteration. Did they detect the camera from afar and decided to avoid detection? "No, he's bound to one place outside town and can't leave it at all," the Augusti enforcer replied. "He's a yellow whose powers activated postmortem, binding him to his grave." "Ah yes, yellow elixirs. The potions granting conceptual powers, from astral projection to bad luck." Ryan liked them, mostly because you never knew what to expect with them. Even by genome standards, their abilities were downright bizarre with weird limitations. "Why the question?" Luigi asked, suspicious, Ryan feeling his truth-telling power activate. "Someone like that blew up my bedroom a few days ago," Ryan replied, which was technically true. The power forced him to be honest, but he could phrase his sentence to mislead. As if that was original. "You certainly make enemies quickly," Luigi noted, frowning. "How do you feel about that?" Ryan prepared to tell a joke, but he felt an alien force take over his mind and change his words. "Nothing particular," he admitted. "It helps fill the void." The Augusti present glanced at him strangely. "The void?" Luigi repeated, confused. "I guess I feel empty alone and directionless inside." Ryan shrugged his mind now on autopilot. "Like my brain is a bottomless well I try to fill with dopamine and endorphins. So the more trouble I have, the greater the rush and the happier I am. Truthfully, boredom is my natural state." An awkward silence followed. "But on the bright side, I look fabulous on the outside." Quicksave added to lighten the mood, before turning to Luigi, unable not to be truthful. "Can you remove that bullshit filter? It's uncomfortable and it makes me want to kill you." "I have to be sure about something," Luigi said, unsympathetic. Are you a snitch or a double agent? No, I'm on my own side only, and I have no cause at all. Ryan replied, but couldn't stop himself. His voice changed from happy to apathetic on its own. To be honest, guys, I'm only using you to find my old pal Len because I'm lonely and I don't feel close to anyone else. Man, you have serious issues, one of the grunt guards said. You should see a therapist. I did, but I broke him first. However, this was getting tiresome, and Ryan's wits were at an end. He didn't want to talk about his emotional hang-ups, let alone with strangers who wouldn't remember anything soon. Now, Luigi, the courier said, tensing like a lynx switching from being playful to threatened. There is only one place where I don't want anyone inside, and that's my mind. If you continue, my knife will find its way to your back and nobody will save you. There, he wanted the truth, he had it. Thankfully, the privacy invader took the threat seriously. Sorry for the probing, Luigi apologized, Ryan sensing the effect lifted. I had to be sure you weren't pulling a fast one on us. The courier simply looked at his face without emotion nor a word, making the truth-teller uncomfortable. Damn it, he hated mind readers and their cousins. No respect for privacy. I guess it's time to split up and go on our merry way, Ryan said, turning to Zonbato and eager to gather his thoughts alone. I give you a lift this time?
No, Zonbato said. Change of plans.
You're going to my place.
His place?
Shouldn't you take me to dinner first?
Ryan mocked.
Yes, of course, that's the plan, Zonbato replied, much to the courier's surprise.
Do you like pizza?
I cook it like no one else. Wait, he was serious? My hotel is... You're going to stay at my place tonight, Zonbato insisted, with the same tone as a big brother scolding his younger sibling. What you need is a friendly, warm environment. But I must catch my secret nemesis.
They will wait.
Give up, man, Luigi told Ryan, clearly amused.
Zon is like cream.
Sweet, and it sticks to you when you get too close. Is it vanilla ice cream? Ryan asked innocently.
I love vanilla.
You should try chocolate, Zonbato suggested. It's good for depression. What followed was one of the strangest moments of Ryan's life. Being led at knife point to a dinner party was certainly a first. Well, not literally at knife point, but metaphorically so. Zonbato simply stepped into Ryan's Plymouth and refused to exit until the courier agreed to come home with him. Passive aggressiveness at its finest. In the end, with the mysterious assassin having backed down for now, Ryan couldn't refuse a free meal. Zonbato lived in a modern house north of Mount Augustus. The area was definitely higher income than Little Maghreb nearby. Local houses were large, modern, and built on steep hills overseeing the poorer districts below. Class stratification had never been made clearer. His host's home was a modern two-floor house with an incredible view of New Rome and an infinity pool built next to the hill's edge. Colored in rich warm brown and white tones, the place seemed both modest and fashionable. Clearly, mafia work paid well. The garage opened on its own, Ryan parking his car between a Lexus ES and a heavily customized Harley-Davidson Sportster. Zonbato took the opportunity to remove his power armor, showing no apprehension at revealing his face to Ryan. The courier had to admit, the Japanese counterfeit was quite handsome, with a perfect jawline, buff muscles, and a 3-day beard. Ryan would peg him somewhere around his mid-30s.
Jamie Cutter.
Zonbato shook Ryan's hand. No masks inside though. You want to know my secret identity?
Ryan replied.
I must warn you, many have gone insane from hearing my true name. Ryan Romano, Jamie chuckled, the courier crossing his arms at his thunder being stolen. To your credit, that's pretty much all I know. My bosses couldn't find much about you.
Really?
Ryan complained as he removed his mask, hat and trench coat, tossing them into the car's back. But I'm unforgettable. Not much before you went out in costume and started blowing stuff up, Jamie clarified, opening the garage's door and inviting his fellow genome inside his home. The door led to a large living area that could probably fit a 2-room apartment inside, including the kitchen, a sofa with a big plasma screen, and stairs to rooms above. Huge picture windows gave a marvelous sight of the city below, and the deco involved a lot of Asian art. A katana hanging on a wall, a Korean flag on the balcony, a statue of the Buddha next to the TV. 2 people were already present. A dark brown woman drank a soda can near the balcony, while an Asian girl sliced tomatoes behind the kitchen counter. But Ryan didn't pay them much attention, his gaze focused on something else. Namely, the enormous rat on the kitchen counter, looking at Ryan with curiosity. The courier waved a hand at it, and the critter raised its tiny forelegs in response.
Ah. Hi, honey.
Jamie kissed the girl in the kitchen on the mouth, while she put her knife and dinner aside. Probably his girlfriend. I brought a new guest.
Hyun Ki-young.
She nodded politely at Ryan, showing him a friendly smile. As skinny as her boyfriend was muscled, she kept her black hair short, dressed modestly, and wore discreet, yet elegant glasses. Ryan would have considered her pretty if she hadn't suffered from weight loss and sore scars on the skin. The courier immediately identified her as a recovering addict.
Waza.
Ryan answered.
Waza.
Ki-young replied with the right tone. Ryan gasped in realization, having finally met someone who understood.
Waza, both shouted at the same time.
This startled the rat a bit, who tilted his head to the side. The dark brown-haired woman looked at them as if they had gone utterly mad, while Jamie remained simply puzzled. It's a very obscure reference, Ki-young reassured him. You have to know the private joke to understand. To be initiated in this brotherhood is the pinnacle of culture, Ryan said, politely introducing himself to this delicate woman. Ryan, quick save, Romano. I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone. You say that to everyone, Jamie pointed out, lovingly putting his arms around his girlfriend. Because nobody remembers. Ryan glanced around and realized the kitchen's rat had brought his entire family. 3 of his kindred watched a documentary on the TV, another slept on the balcony, and another leaped on Ki-young's shoulder like a Pikachu. They looked extraordinarily clean though, more pampered pets than pests. I control them, Ki-young told Ryan, petting the kitchen rat from behind his ears.
Somewhat.
I telepathically connect with them, which increases their intelligence.
Blue or green? Ryan asked.
Green, she replied, meaning her power affected biology rather than mere rodent telepathy.
I'm Chitter.
She probably thought Ryan would recognize the name, but he didn't. Finally having enough of the racket, or perhaps curious, the balcony girl decided to join the kitchen and socialize. Although Rock Disaster would have been a better name. Ryan had never met someone with more tattoos on their arms and shoulders. She even bore a bird symbol below her right eye, although it was hard to notice due to her stained glasses. The woman dressed like a biker girl, with a white sleeveless shirt, blue pants, black boots, and a cross pendant around her neck. She kept her dark hair in shoulder-long dreadlocks, and unlike Ki-young, she clearly exercised a lot. Who is that Zon? She asked bluntly upon eyeing Ryan. A new hobo you found on the road?
Lonka. Jamie chastised her.
I prefer the term murderobo, Ryan replied, his pride wounded. I don't have any home, but I love stealing them. Oh really? She didn't sound impressed, trading her soda can for a smoke. She offered everyone one, including Ryan, but nobody took her up on it. You don't look like the killer type. My costume is in the garage, Ryan deadpanned, the woman snorting. He beat up Saren so fast I couldn't see it, Jamie said, making Ryan swoon in pride.
Don't push it, Lonka. Ah, new muscle?
She played with her cigarette.
About time.
Can't ride near Rust Town without those psychos ambushing me, and half our normies don't want to sell bliss there anymore. Can we talk business some other night? Ki-young asked, clapping her hand to get everyone's attention. The rats gathered in a line on the kitchen counter, as if expecting a cheese delivery. Can you help set the gambling table while we prepare the pizzas?
Do you like poker? Jamie asked.
Entry fee is 100. I don't like poker, but I like winning, Ryan joked, most smiling in response. Well, everyone except Lonka, who took it as a challenge.
Are you a team?
Is this a Cosa Nostra reunion? We are all made men and women, yes, and we work together, Jamie said, flinching at the Cosa Nostra comment. We also share this flat for practical purposes. Since a few rooms are available, I wanted to invite you to crash for a few days until our business is done. It won't cost you anything, and you will like it more than a hotel. Zon owns the place, and he can't help but invite strangers in need, Lonka said, like that hobo. You will never let me live that down, will you? Jamie sighed, his girlfriend chuckling. It was only 2 weeks until he found a job. I appreciate the offer to spy on me, but I prefer my privacy, Ryan replied. This is a friendly proposal with no hidden strings, Jamie insisted, and much to the courier's confusion, he sounded genuine. Weird guy. Although I do think you would have much to gain by joining our big family, personally and professionally. I'm just looking for Len, Ryan replied, uninterested. Black hair, blue eyes, underdiver? Underdiver. This time, the name seemed familiar to Jamie. I've heard that name somewhere. The power plant incident earlier this year, Ki-young said.
That was him. Her, Ryan said, much to his host's surprise. Ah yes, I remember. Jamie nodded.
The private security caught her, and Vulcan wanted to break her out for recruitment. I'm not sure if the weapons division followed through with it however. You don't work for Vulcan? Ryan asked, confused. Our capo is called Mercury, Ki-young told Ryan. His division oversees gambling and logistics, alongside security work on the side, while Vulcan's group controls the weapon trade. Our bosses cooperate sometimes, but usually every group does their own thing. Gosh, they sounded more like a twisted bureaucracy than a criminal syndicate. Wait, Why did Vulcan send me to you rather than recruit me herself? I'm one of the Auguste's primary recruiters, Jamie explained. The capos trust me to evaluate potential new recruits for a first check. If you're here rather than in a trash can, that means you passed, Lanka said, finishing her cigarette and starting a new one. I will introduce you to Vulcan tomorrow, even if you don't want to join, Jamie promised Ryan. That should solve your problem neatly. Until then, you're welcome to live with us. So, what do you say? Ryan considered the proposal. Truth be told, a lot of genomes in the same place should discourage the mysterious assassin from bothering him again, and except Lanka they seemed like nice people in spite of their criminal background.
It could be fun.
However, Ryan was leery to join communities, since he died often and they always forgot him afterward. Getting to know people only for them to treat you as a stranger afterward was just painful. Only his friendship with Len predated his time manipulation power. The courier could always bolt away when he felt too attached. I say 4 cheese, Ryan replied, the others taking it as a yes. Alright, ground rules, no bliss allowed under this roof, no cats or pest control, no cocaine after 10, Jamie said, clearly radiating some kind of dad energy. Everybody cleans up their shit, tinkering is in the garage, you warn us the day before if you want to host a party. Ryan listened in silence as if he would dutifully follow the rules. Clearly, Jamie didn't know him well yet. It had been a while since Ryan drove a group in his Plymouth Fury. He often transported 1 or 2 people, especially when on a drunken bender or working as a getaway driver, but rarely a group like this one. Jamie wore his power armor in the back, while Ki-young dressed with a green hoodie at his side. Her rats had taken over every corner of the car, hiding behind and beneath the seats. Unfortunately, Lanka complained all the way at the front. You cheated, blabbermouth, she accused Ryan. She would have gone to the meeting with her bike too, had Jamie not insisted they all travel in the same vehicle for team building. I know you did. Someone is a sore loser here, Ryan replied, having left yesterday's table a few $100 richer. Also, blabbermouth? He'd had way better nicknames. Like Lil, Granny Destroyer. I counted cards, Lanka said. But you changed them. I'm never wrong about that. So you accuse him of cheating, by admitting that you cheated yourself? Jamie asked, unsympathetic. Of course I cheated, Ryan admitted openly, much to Jamie and Ki-young's surprise. And instead of condemning me, you should learn from it, my young Padawan. Failure is an experience. Then you must be very experienced by now, Lanka shrugged. Clearly, she could give as much as she took. There is nothing more human than cheating. You know who else accused the human race of cheating? Mammoths. They said, hey, these humans they attack us with bows and spears instead of tusks, it's not fair. Ryan looked at the sore loser. Have you met any mammoths lately, Lanka? Jamie sighed at their bickering. We'll try tabletop games next time. The group parked near Little Maghrib, next to a fortress of stone and steel. The building had been some kind of foundry before the war until Vulcan took it over a few years back. This crimson castle of metal walls, pipes and reservoirs seemed closer to an old army base to Ryan though. A lot of grunts patrolled the area, wielding shotguns, grenade launchers and miniguns. He also noticed a few snipers on the roof, watching every corner of the streets around the foundry. Apparently, it was an open secret that Vulcan's weapon division operated there, but nobody was stupid enough to attack them. Not even the private security and Il Miglior. New Rome truly lived in a Cold War-like era. It was also quite close to the hotel Ryan had used in a previous loop. No wonder Vulcan attacked Wyvern when she moved so close to their headquarters. Also, I want to say I am disappointed in you ladies, Ryan told Lanka and Ki-young. Only Zonbato and I have costumes. You don't even wear masks. Why would we wear masks when the private security has files on us? Ki-young asked in confusion, leaving her rats in the car to keep an eye on it. They even know where we live. And there aren't that many advanced armors to go around, Lanka replied, although she had the common sense to supplement her outfit with a belt holster.
And what kind of a costume, a cape?
Do you know how hard it is not to trip with it? It's not about practicality, it's about looking stylish, Ryan replied, hands on his trench coat. Without a bright and colorful style, what are we? Mere animals. Culture is what elevates.
Aha, villains.
Ryan paused and looked at a strange newcomer. A person climbed down from a bicycle near the car, dressed like Rambo, except without the gun, and half the muscles. He had painted his face and dyed his hair white, with black spots for the eyes. It looked ridiculous, truth be told. The rest of the group seemed to recognize him, but instead of attacking, they all looked embarrassed. You have come farther than you should have, but you found your sworn destroyer, the fool declared, trying desperately to look badass, but coming desperately short. Prepare to face the wrath of... Oh God, not this again, Lanka sighed, the rest of the group eerily silent.
The panda.
The what? Ryan asked, unsure whether to condemn this man's terrible fashion sense or applaud his efforts. At least someone in this city understood the importance of costumes. Is your power only getting laid every 10 years? Pandas are picky, the ridiculous man answered, but something in his tone made Ryan dubious.
He didn't even look Chinese. He's a vigilante.
Somehow, Lanka made the word sound ridiculous, rolling her eyes while she said it. Clearly, she didn't take him seriously.
He can transform into a... and?
Ryan asked, expecting something else.
And that's it.
But a very big Ki-young added with a chuckle as if to soften the blow. Man, some genomes were just unlucky. Has the fear of the petrified you, villains? The hero put his hands on his waist, mistaking the awkward silence for fear. Did he seriously come all the way here to pick a fight? Ryan could respect that, although he should work on his introduction. Just ignore him, and he will go away, Jamie replied, leaving for the armory without sparing the poor would-be hero a glance. Ki-young followed soon afterward, although she gave a pitiful glance at the poor animal. Even the Foundry's guards seemed to joke about the newcomer, not making any effort to intercept him.
You will not escape me.
Frustrated by this lack of respect, he underwent a terrible transformation. Black and white fur grew on his skin, his body gaining mass and muscle. He grew claws and fangs, shedding his pants and jacket like a magnificent butterfly. The man was gone, leaving only the... It was a pretty big though, even larger than a polar bear. Yet when he let out a scream, Ryan found it cute, rather than terrifying. With a heavy sigh, Lanka joined her index and middle fingers together to form a gun, and fired an orange sphere of energy with it. The projectile flew towards the at an arrow's speed, and hit him in the nose. The poor animal instantly fell to the left side paralyzed. It had been a while since Ryan drove a group in his Plymouth Fury. He often transported 1 or 2 people, especially when on a drunken bender or working as a getaway driver, but rarely a group like this one. Jamie wore his power armor in the back, while Ki-young dressed with a green hoodie at his side. Her rats had taken over every corner of the car, hiding behind and beneath the seats. Unfortunately, Lanka complained all the way at the front. You cheated, blabbermouth, she accused Ryan. She would have gone to the meeting with her bike too, had Jamie not insisted they all travel in the same vehicle for team building. I know you did. Someone is a sore loser here, Ryan replied, having left yesterday's table a few $100 richer.
Also, blabbermouth?
He'd had way better nicknames. Like Lil, Granny Destroyer. I counted cards, Lanka said. But you changed them. I'm never wrong about that. So you accuse him of cheating, by admitting that you cheated yourself? Jamie asked, unsympathetic. Of course I cheated, Ryan admitted openly, much to Jamie and Ki-young's surprise. And instead of condemning me, you should learn from it, my young Padawan. Failure is an experience. Then you must be very experienced by now, Lanka shrugged. Clearly, she could give as much as she took. There is nothing more human than cheating. You know who else accused the human race of cheating? Mammoths. They said, hey, these humans they attack us with bows and spears instead of tusks, it's not fair. Ryan looked at the sore loser. Have you met any mammoths lately, Lanka? Jamie sighed at their bickering. We'll try tabletop games next time. The group parked near Little Maghrib, next to a fortress of stone and steel. The building had been some kind of foundry before the war until Vulcan took it over a few years back. This crimson castle of metal walls, pipes and reservoirs seemed closer to an old army base to Ryan though. A lot of grunts patrolled the area, wielding shotguns, grenade launchers and miniguns. He also noticed a few snipers on the roof, watching every corner of the streets around the foundry. Apparently, it was an open secret that Vulcan's weapon division operated there, but nobody was stupid enough to attack them. Not even the private security and Il Miglior. New Rome truly lived in a Cold War-like era. It was also quite close to the hotel Ryan had used in a previous loop. No wonder Vulcan attacked Wyvern when she moved so close to their headquarters. Also, I want to say I am disappointed in you ladies, Ryan told Lanka and Ki-young. Only Zonbato and I have costumes. You don't even wear masks. Why would we wear masks when the private security has files on us? Ki-young asked in confusion, leaving her rats in the car to keep an eye on it. They even know where we live. And there aren't that many advanced armors to go around, Lanka replied, although she had the common sense to supplement her outfit with a belt holster.
And what kind of a costume, a cape?
Do you know how hard it is not to trip with it? It's not about practicality, it's about looking stylish, Ryan replied, hands on his trench coat. Without a bright and colorful style, what are we? Mere animals. Culture is what elevates.
Aha, villains.
Ryan paused and looked at a strange newcomer. A person climbed down from a bicycle near the car, dressed like Rambo, except without the gun, and half the muscles. He had painted his face and dyed his hair white, with black spots for the eyes. It looked ridiculous, truth be told. The rest of the group seemed to recognize him, but instead of attacking, they all looked embarrassed. "You have come farther than you should have, but you found your sworn destroyer," the fool declared, trying desperately to look badass, but coming desperately short. "Prepare to face the wrath of—" "Oh God, not this again," Lonka sighed, the rest of the group eerily silent.
The panda. The what?
Ryan asked, unsure whether to condemn this man's terrible fashion sense or applaud his efforts. At least someone in this city understood the importance of costumes. "Is your power only getting laid every 10 years? "Pandas are picky," the ridiculous man answered, but something in his tone made Ryan dubious.
He didn't even look Chinese. He's a vigilante.
Somehow, Lonka made the word sound ridiculous, rolling her eyes while she said it. Clearly, she didn't take him seriously.
He can transform into a... and?
Ryan asked, expecting something else.
And that's it.
But a very big Ki-young added with a chuckle as if to soften the blow. "Man, some genomes were just unlucky. Has the fear of the petrified you, villains?" The hero put his hands on his waist, mistaking the awkward silence for fear. Did he seriously come all the way here to pick a fight? Ryan could respect that, although he should work on his introduction. "Just ignore him, and he will go away," Jamie replied, leaving for the armory without sparing the poor would-be hero a glance. Ki-young followed soon afterward, although she gave a pitiful glance at the poor animal. Even the Foundry's guards seemed to joke about the newcomer, not making any effort to intercept him.
"You will not escape me."
Frustrated by this lack of respect, he underwent a terrible transformation. Black and white fur grew on his skin, his body gaining mass and muscle. He grew claws and fangs, shedding his pants and jacket like a magnificent butterfly. The man was gone, leaving only the... It was a pretty big though, even larger than a polar bear. Yet when he let out a scream, Ryan found it cute, rather than terrifying. With a heavy sigh, Lonka joined her index and middle fingers together to form a gun, and fired an orange sphere of energy with it. The projectile flew towards the an arrow's speed, and hit him in the nose. The poor animal instantly fell to the left side paralyzed. Ryan understood now why they called her sphere. "All right," Lonka said, drawing a Beretta 76 from her pocket. "I call dibs on his corpse."
"You're going to kill a panda?" Ryan asked, horrified.
"They're extinct." "Yeah, that means we can sell his fur to a collector." She pointed her gun at the poor beast. "I'm stopping you right there, Cruella." Ryan moved in the barrel's way, unable to stand animal cruelty. "I won't let you kill the last. You could get the death penalty for this." "He's not a blabbermouth, he's an idiot. It's like being already dead, except you lost your mind while alive. I can't allow you to anger PETA. You don't know what those guys are capable of.
Or what they could do before the wars."
"Who the hell is PETA, a genome?" she asked, confused, before lowering her gun in annoyance. "You know he's going to come back and get killed by the guards later, blabbermouth? The way I see it, it's survival of the fittest. At least I will make it quick." "I'll take full responsibility for saving this disciple of style," Ryan replied, his female companion rolling her eyes and putting her gun back in its holster. "I believe there is still hope for him, my marauding friend." She raised an eyebrow.
"How do you know that? That she was an ex-bandit?"
"The snake tattoo on your arm, which you tried to cover up beneath other ones," Ryan replied, having noticed that detail during the poker night. "I already met people with it. Very unkind people." "I hope you killed them," she replied, "the guards letting them inside the Foundry's perimeter. I belonged to a real band of savages back in the day."
"Oh yes he did."
Ryan and Lonka walked towards the metal gates, finding Jamie and Ki-young discussing with another duo. Or rather, a woman was talking, and everyone else listened with occasional nods. She was obviously a genome. Her skin was deathly pale, unnaturally so, and her long hair bright blue. This mature lady carried herself with an eerie sort of elegance, that of an otherworldly fairy among men. Unlike Ryan's team, she had style aplenty, wearing a black Greek chiton dress as her costume, alongside sandals, a shark tooth necklace, and skull-shaped earrings. Ryan couldn't explain why, but he had a bad feeling about her. Mostly because Jamie and Ki-young seemed stiff as hell when she spoke, and even Lonka tensed to her sight. The courier also recognized her bodyguard as the woman who tried to flirt with him at the Bakudo, back when he had messed up with the chain of events. Although this time, she had traded her dress for a black uniform and an assault rifle. Since they hadn't met in this restart, she didn't recognize him. The blue-haired woman and her bodyguard passed by Ryan and Lonka on their way to the parking lot, before stopping abruptly when she noticed the courier. "You," the blue-haired woman said, her voice deep like someone used to being obeyed.
"Moi."
Ryan pointed a finger at himself. "How old are you?" she asked, her sharp gray eyes examining him closely. Somehow, it felt like locking eyes with a hungry crocodile peeking out of the water.
What a question.
Ryan made a mock bow. I'm immortal, but don't tell anyone. No one is immortal, she responded, vaguely amused. I hope to reach your age one day though. Then she stopped paying him any mind and walked away with her escort.
Shit, Lonka whispered. That's not good. Who is she?
Ryan asked, curious. Pluto, Augusta's sister and underboss, Jamie said upon regrouping, clearly worried. When he sends her, heads fall. Isn't Pluto a guy in Roman mythology?
Ryan asked.
I support gender equality, but wouldn't Plutonia have been more appropriate? I believe they had a theme naming thing in the family, Lonka replied, relaxing once the underboss was out of sight. The third member of the sibling trio, Neptune, serves as Augustus Consigliere. At least they tried to respect the spirit of the names. Ryan appreciated the cultural reference. What's her power exactly? If she wants you to die, Jamie said, his eyes darkening, you die. As in what? She vaporizes you with lightning. No, you just die, Jamie interrupted Ryan, a hint of fear and wariness in his voice. Perhaps he worried rightfully that quick save would try to put this power to the test. There is no warning, no protection, no counter. If she wants you dead, you die. The end. Since we still have enemies alive, her power must have limits, Kyung said. But we don't know them. This only made Ryan even more interested. He would check it one loop. Lonka, however, wanted more information. Why was she here? She asked Jamie. 5 of our made men have died under mysterious circumstances lately, Kyung replied instead. The meta trash? Jamie shook his head. No, they would have loudly claimed these murders, and they aren't their style. Poison powerful enough to affect genomes, explosives, drowning and suffocation. The boss believes this is a new vigilante. Pluto and the Killer 7 hit squad will take care of this, and if they ask for anything, we are to assist them with the task. Explosives, he said? My invisible nemesis struck again, Ryan said, happy to have solved the mystery. Yeah, I thought the same, Jamie said. But unless the one responsible knocks at our door itching for a fight, we're leaving the higher-ups to deal with this. Once the hit squad is after someone, it's only a matter of time before the matter is solved. Ryan guessed it would be rude to say murdered. Alright, a few rules about how to address Vulcan, Jamie told Ryan, as they stood before the metal gates. Don't make jokes about her height, and for the love of God, don't mention Wyvern unless she mentions her first. Ryan nodded dutifully, the doors opening to let them walk inside. Jamie led them on to a guided tour of the foundry, although it quickly became clear the name didn't fully illustrate the truth. The building housed a whole weapon production operation, from the metal processing to the assembly line. The group walked through searing hot rooms full of furnaces and automated assembly lines. They produced guns, bullets, and rockets. Some of the guards even wore variants of Jamie's own armor, albeit bulkier and far more intimidating. Eventually, they reached Vulcan's workshop. It was the quintessential genius's lair, full of bulky devices, glass bulbs providing light, and strange contraptions centuries ahead of modern times. It also had a big robot on standby. Scratch that, it turned out to be an enormous set of power armor, albeit nearly 5 meters tall and with the wideness to match. While humanoid, the suit was so bulky it might as well be called a tank with legs. However, considering the number of miniature turboreactors and the multi-joint design of the limbs, Ryan guessed the machine could move surprisingly fast in the field. And of course, it had enough weapons to rival a battleship, including a massive rocket launcher on the right arm, cannons, and even beam weaponry. The courier also noticed multiple eye-shaped cameras dispatched all over the machine, perhaps to allow the user to see in all directions. Finally, the machine was plated with gold, probably to show off as much as possible. The builder was waiting for them, drawing plans on a large table. Much like Pluto, in spite of her codename, Vulcan turned out to be a girl. And to Ryan's surprise, she seemed a little bit younger than him biologically.
18, 19?
In any case, she was petite, barely 1.60 meters tall, with olive skin, sharp black eyes, and dark hair bound into a bun by a pencil of all things. She dressed rather casually for her station, a mere black shirt, dirted pants, and unlaced shoes. But when she looked at him, Ryan could see the fierceness in her gaze. I expected someone taller, Ryan told her innocently. Like Wyvern. The room grew incredibly tense, everyone looked at him as if he were insane, except Vulcan, who gave him a murderous glare. Ryan looked away at the giant mech, whistling. We'll see who is taller when I blow off your legs, jackass, the capo said with a face that reminded Ryan of Len. She must have had the same height complex. Because right now, you just stepped on a landmine. Here comes Napoleon. Quick save, please, a little respect, Jamie coughed, he and the rest of the team nodding at Vulcan.
I'm sorry, Chief.
He doesn't know what he says. Oh no, he does, Vulcan replied angrily, glaring at Ryan. The bitch is my personal N-word. When someone speaks it, they suffer. Do you have any survival instinct?
Lonka hissed at Ryan. Of course not, I'm immortal.
Survival instincts are for people who can die. The courier glanced at the giant armor, noticing the enormous reactor on the machine's back. Is that a miniaturized fusion reactor? Vulcan's face betrayed some surprise, although she remained clearly furious with him. I'm surprised you could tell. I worked on one once, albeit nothing this advanced, Ryan replied, examining the rest of the suit. And plasma beams for offense too. Clever, clever. Maybe I should give you a live demonstration. As Vulcan spoke these words, the suit moved on its own. The other genomes took a step back, and Jamie in particular looked ready to summon an energy sword. Though since you've got a brain, I guess I will only destroy the legs. Ryan simply kept observing this marvel of technology, even as it pointed its weapons at his lower half. Vulcan frowned, her anger replaced with astonishment. You are awfully close to death, and yet neither your heartbeat nor blood pressure changed at all. No abnormal neural activity either. You give absolutely zero fucks.
Wait, how could she know that?
Did she have a telepathic link to her suit's sensors? Though he should feel thankful that her anger had left the building, replaced with curiosity. She probably thought he had some ace up his sleeve. I heard you carried advanced tech with you. Quick save, Vulcan said, the others too happy to see her calm down to say anything.
Are you a genius? Sort of.
He didn't have enhanced intelligence, but he had spent so many loops tinkering with advanced technology, he might as well be a de facto genius. Ryan looked into his trench coat and handed Vulcan the A-bomb. What a beautiful, elegant design, Vulcan whistled, examining it under all its forms. You made that. Everyone should have a bomb on themselves for dissuasion. Ryan avoided a straightforward answer, full of excitement in the presence of a fellow bomb maker.
Bombs save lives.
Exactly, Vulcan replied with the same enthusiasm, unable to restrain her geeky passion for explosions. You know why the Cold War never went hot?
Because everyone had A-bombs.
Absolute destructive power is the key to peace. Oh God, there are two of them now, Ryan heard Lonka whisper to Jamie, who ground his teeth in uneasiness. Still, Ryan could see everyone relax a bit. What about Mekran? Ki-young asked mirthfully, a thin smile on her lips.
Bombs didn't help against him.
An unforeseen variable, chitter, like the alchemist, Vulcan brushed it off, before waving the A-bomb under Ryan's nose. You see this?
Yes.
If you say wyvern again, I'll shove it down your throat. Since you've got precious skills, I'll spare your life, but only this time. Don't push your luck again, unless you want a one-way ticket to Killville. Nice place, he had been there a lot of times. So, you're not giving me back the bomb? No, that's your respect tax, she said before brazenly stealing his device and putting it in her pocket. If you join my division, I might change my mind. I've got a lot of workers, but few real engineers worth their salt. You have an attitude problem, but I'll tame you. Ryan also noticed that her suit kept its weapons pointed at him, even if she sounded friendlier. I thought he might do well with Mercury's. Jamie cleared up his throat, defending his own division. I'm the one who looked him up first, Zonbato, Vulcan replied. If Mercury wants to find good men, he should get out of his house once in a while. I'm very happy for the attention, but I'm not the person for long-term employment, said Ryan. I'm looking for Len, black hair, blue eyes, Marxist-Leninist. Underdiver, Vulcan replied, smirking when Ryan gave her his full attention. But I don't see how I benefit from introducing you to my subcontractor, especially if you aren't with us long-term.
Subcontractor?
Finally, he could almost taste the reunion. How much for the privilege? Vulcan replied with a laugh, sitting on her workshop table. You think I'm a crook who works for money? Then I have only my body left to sell. Ki-young couldn't help but chuckle at his joke, before quickly correcting her expression. Vulcan smiled a bit. I don't know if you're ballsy or just insane, she said. But as a matter of fact, I have a need for fresh warm bodies to throw at a problem. The Meta Gang? Jamie cleared his throat. You want us to take them down? My crew will take care of the meta problem, Vulcan brushed him off. The big boss gave us the go order. Just protect the shipments, and we'll take care of Rust Town.
No.
What I have in mind involves fighting the blog.
The best kind of mission, Ryan delighted. Are we going to do tax evasion?
There's nothing more excitingly dangerous. Even Al Capone couldn't do it.
Nobody pays taxes, blabbermouth, Lonka pointed out.
The private security and Il Miglior have been a bit overeager lately, Vulcan said with a sneer. Nothing too damaging, but they're testing us. They believe the meta made our organization weak. We must remind them not to underestimate the Augusti. You want us to attack Dynami's operations? Jamie asked, Lonka frowning at the US.
Vulcan nodded.
Dynamis is currently filming a new Il Miglior movie. I want you to trash the studio, send them a message. Isn't the newest movie under work there? Jamie trailed off, without finishing his sentence. Wyvern's Flight 2, Vulcan finished a vengeful glint in her eyes. Yeah, totally business as usual. Do you want your personal vendetta crispy, Ryan asked, or extra crispy? Clearly, Jamie didn't know him well yet. It had been a while since Ryan drove a group in his Plymouth Fury. He often transported 1 or 2 people, especially when on a drunken bender or working as a getaway driver, but rarely a group like this one. Jamie wore his power armor in the back, while Ki-young dressed with a green hoodie at his side. Her rats had taken over every corner of the car, hiding behind and beneath the seats. Unfortunately, Lonka complained all the way at the front. You cheated, blabbermouth, she accused Ryan. She would have gone to the meeting with her bike too, had Jamie not insisted they all travel in the same vehicle for team building. I know you did. Someone is a sore loser here, Ryan replied, having left yesterday's table a few $100 richer. Also, blabbermouth? He'd had way better nicknames. Like Lil Granny Destroyer. I counted cards, Lonka said. But you changed them. I'm never wrong about that. So you accuse him of cheating, by admitting that you cheated yourself? Jamie asked, unsympathetic. Of course I cheated, Ryan admitted openly, much to Jamie and Ki-young's surprise. And instead of condemning me, you should learn from it, my young Padawan. Failure is an experience. Then you must be very experienced by now, Lonka shrugged. Clearly, she could give as much as she took. There is nothing more human than cheating. You know who else accused the human race of cheating? Mammoths. They said, hey, these humans they attack us with bows and spears instead of tusks, it's not fair. Ryan looked at the sore loser. Have you met any mammoths lately, Lonka? Jamie sighed at their bickering. We'll try tabletop games next time. The group parked near Little Maghrib, next to a fortress of stone and steel. The building had been some kind of foundry before the war until Vulcan took it over a few years back. This crimson castle of metal walls, pipes and reservoirs seemed closer to an old army base to Ryan though. A lot of grunts patrolled the area, wielding shotguns, grenade launchers and miniguns. He also noticed a few snipers on the roof, watching every corner of the streets around the foundry. Apparently, it was an open secret that Vulcan's weapon division operated there, but nobody was stupid enough to attack them. Not even the private security and Il Miglior. New Rome truly lived in a Cold War-like era. It was also quite close to the hotel Ryan had used in a previous loop. No wonder Vulcan attacked Wyvern when she moved so close to their headquarters. Also, I want to say I am disappointed in you ladies, Ryan told Lonka and Ki-young. Only Zonbato and I have costumes. You don't even wear masks. Why would we wear masks when the private security has files on us? Ki-young asked in confusion, leaving her rats in the car to keep an eye on it. They even know where we live. And there aren't that many advanced armors to go around, Lonka replied, although she had the common sense to supplement her outfit with a belt holster.
And what kind of a costume, a cape?
Do you know how hard it is not to trip with it? It's not about practicality, it's about looking stylish, Ryan replied, hands on his trench coat. Without a bright and colorful style, what are we? Mere animals. Culture is what elevates.
Aha, villains.
Ryan paused and looked at a strange newcomer. A person climbed down from a bicycle near the car, dressed like Rambo, except without the gun, and half the muscles. He had painted his face and dyed his hair white, with black spots for the eyes. It looked ridiculous, truth be told. The rest of the group seemed to recognize him, but instead of attacking, they all looked embarrassed. You have come farther than you should have, but you found your sworn destroyer, the fool declared, trying desperately to look badass, but coming desperately short. Prepare to face the wrath of... Oh God, not this again, Lonka sighed, the rest of the group eerily silent.
The panda. The what?
Ryan asked, unsure whether to condemn this man's terrible fashion sense or applaud his efforts. At least someone in this city understood the importance of costumes. Is your power only getting laid every 10 years? Pandas are picky, the ridiculous man answered, but something in his tone made Ryan dubious.
He didn't even look Chinese. He's a vigilante.
Somehow, Lonka made the word sound ridiculous, rolling her eyes while she said it. Clearly, she didn't take him seriously.
He can transform into a... And?
Ryan asked, expecting something else.
And that's it.
But a very big Ki-young added with a chuckle as if to soften the blow. Man, some genomes were just unlucky. Has the fear of the petrified you, villains? The hero put his hands on his waist, mistaking the awkward silence for fear. Did he seriously come all the way here to pick a fight? Ryan could respect that, although he should work on his introduction. Just ignore him, and he will go away, Jamie replied, leaving for the armory without sparing the poor would-be hero a glance. Ki-young followed soon afterward, although she gave a pitiful glance at the poor animal. Even the Foundry's guards seemed to joke about the newcomer, not making any effort to intercept him. You will not escape me. Frustrated by this lack of respect, he underwent a terrible transformation. Black and white fur grew on his skin, his body gaining mass and muscle. He grew claws and fangs, shedding his pants and jacket like a magnificent butterfly. The man was gone, leaving only the... It was a pretty big though, even larger than a polar bear. Yet when he let out a scream, Ryan found it cute, rather than terrifying. With a heavy sigh, Lanka joined her index and middle fingers together to form a gun, and fired an orange sphere of energy with it. The projectile flew towards the at an arrow's speed, and hit him in the nose. The poor animal instantly fell to the left side paralyzed.